Alright, welcome back, friends and fiends. We're going to do another solo RPG stream today. That's our plan. Thanks for checking out the stream, and thanks for coming back, obviously, if you've been here before. This is technically going to be session 12. Session 12 of our stream, our solo game. And if this is your first time joining, don't worry. We'll catch you up real quick. There is not too much you need to know. We're rolling a character named Landlitta Reed. He is a brand new noble. He is technically a baronet, which is like a level below a baron. So a very low ranking noble. One of the lowest ranks of nobles. But he is newly risen to that rank, and there are a lot of people politically who don't like that within our Fürstentum, which is like a principality. Very German kind of inspired area that we're playing in. So, pop that up. There we go. And so he is in his way. He is going beyond the borders of the Fürstentum as we know it, and will be attempting to create and secure his own new fief, his own new area of land. And in the process, there are lots of people who are trying to stop him from doing that. We've had a kidnapping plot, a few assassination attempts, and we are picking up, actually, in this session, picking up right with an attack that's happening as they're resting in the woods. We'll look at the map real quick. Helps if I pull it up. There we go. Is this going to be it? No. Let's just go full screen. You can see down at the bottom I have a little place where it says, hey, the party's camped here. Here we are. So we started down here. White Virchin. I mean, we started further away. But this little trek as we go beyond the borders, that's where the yellow lines are. Trekking here, we're doing a little bit of hex crawling. This will change the mode of play once we get to where we're getting to, which for right now, we're trying to get to, this is kind of our target right here. So we're pretty close at this point. We got another day, maybe two, if we roll really, really poorly. But the natural 20 on Gertrude's, who is one of our retainers. We have two retainers. There's Reed, you can see on the left. We have Cristoff, which is our first retainer, who is more of our bodyguard. He's sort of a warrior. We're using the 5e sidekicks, and he is a warrior sidekick, half-elf sort of veteran. And we have Lagerwarder's Gertrude, or Lore Keeper Gertrude. She is a druid, not in the DnD class, but in the sort of Celtic kind of background, and more like a religious druid than necessarily a magic-y turned into animals druid. And they are actually an expert sidekick, so they have a little bit of magic because they're using, I think it's the like acolyte stat block, if I remember correctly. So they do have a little bit of magic and a little bit of healing magic, but that's going to be it. We do not have any mages in this party. Now, right now, Reed is a level 0 character. He is real squishy, really can't do a whole lot. He is young and inexperienced. We've been building up his stats and his abilities as we've kind of been on this adventure. And as soon as we kind of make our base camp, which is what we're going to be doing pretty soon, hopefully, he will then get his first level. And then we'll make the decision, because we now know his full stats, that he is high in wisdom and high in charisma. So it's likely that we'll probably pick a bard, but we could go the sorcerer route, we could go the warlock route. Already had a touch because of his sort of coming of age ritual he did, where he was reached out to by one of the gods of this custom setting world called the Cat. And so we might decide to go a warlock pact there, and I'll have to make up some sort of warlock pact. It'll probably be probably more like a Feylock, I think, because I don't think I want to do like a divine thing or a divine sorcerer or something like that. So we could go that way. We could go the cleric way, and that would be very interesting. We could do a full druid if we wanted to, but I don't think that would make sense for this character. So we got a lot of options, but we got to survive first, and we are starting off right now with a bit of combat. And of course, if you guys have any questions about what we're doing, because I'm doing a little bit of homebrew for all the stuff we're playing, so any confusions, anything like that, feel free to drop a question in the chat, or if you're watching the VOD later, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll try to address them. I want to make sure everybody understands kind of what we're doing. We are camped here overnight. we rolled last time during Cristoff's watch. Pull up our document down here and drop this. Oop. It helps if I am on the right page. So, a little bit of housekeeping from last time. Let's go ahead and do this. This one right here. There we go. So a little bit of house cleaning from last time. So we came up with this, that we were doing the exterior. It's late night. It's the Deep Woods campsite. I went ahead and updated our day for our tracker and our weather, which will come into play, I think, during the combat. So I don't think it's going to have too much impact, or maybe right after the combat. So during Cristoff's watch, 7 homunculi that we coded as bats are going to be flying into the area. That was sort of the random encounter we rolled up for. I ended up afterwards looking back over the notes and being like, actually, that's a really bad idea. I'm going to knock that down to 5 creatures because we built it in the encounter generator, but I wasn't thinking because I was trying to do this at the end of the session. It was like, oh, right, when we do 2-to-1 odds or better, that's actually really, really difficult in 5e or 5.5. That really puts the action economy against the PCs, which makes a fight deceptively more difficult than it would seem by the encounter builder because of the way that action economy works. So I decided they also have this KO ability where you can create a possible death loop pretty easily if they're trying to kill the PCs. Or if you fail a save, you can, by 5 or more, you're going to get knocked out with a poison condition. You're going to wake up to fail the new save with the ongoing disadvantage because you still have the poison condition for a minute. And you're going to repeat that and basically until the PCs run out of hit points. It's a really bad loop. So I was like, for monsters that we're fighting that are supposed to be CR 0. I was like, that is actually a little bit too tough. We are going to throw it here. There is still a chance that this goes real sideways real quick. We had that in the last fight that we did where just Gertrude nearly got permadeath one-shotted. That is always going to be the risk when you're playing real low-level D&D. Is that one bad roll, like getting crit, and getting good rolls on those crits, can absolutely kill a PC. We missed it by literally 1 hit point. 21 instead of 22. It was real dicey. That would have been a terrible blow to our party. But we survived, and so we're going to pick up with this combat. So let's go ahead and some combat-y kind of music going. Let me flip you back over here real quick while I rearrange our stuff. No. There, I went down here. Down here. Do it. Ah, there we go. All right. So let's hop over. I'm going to pull up our tabletop audio real quick that I have been up here on the right. Check it out, tabletopaudio.com. Very cool. The guy who runs it's very nice and allows me to use all of this for free on the stream. So feel free to go give him a chance. You don't have to pay anything, so a lot of good stuff. So I think we're going to go into Fire Dance, which is our combat music. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. My headphones. So I can actually hear it. Alright, so we've got our homunculi. And we have rolled. And unfortunately, Cristoff, we already rolled initiative, so we know that Cristoff is surprised. So that's not good for us. So he pretty much misses his turn, which is not great. And everybody else is asleep. So we have homunculi. We have 5 of them that are flying into camp. So just because we're kind of doing this theater of the mind and we're not pulling out, VTT of any type, I'm just going to ask us a little oracle question. D20. If we get 11, the answer is yes. If we get 10 or lower, the answer is no. We can modify that a little bit, but this one's just going to be straight. Does it take them their entire like dash move to get into combat at this point when we're starting combat? Yes, but just barely. All right, well that's what happens. So first thing, so Cristoff is unaware of them and then sees these 5 forms flying through the trees, swooping down upon the party, and they enter the campfire. But that is all they can do. Gertrude is asleep, but they still get a perception check. They just get a disadvantage for being asleep. These things haven't made an attack yet, so let's just kind of use their basic stealth. Which is, they get a +2 to this. Yeah, they don't have anything else. Alright, so they get a +2 to stealth, so a DC 12, but we do have disadvantage. But we have two characters who have middling. So let's see. Okay, so Reed's gonna wake up. I'm just gonna do both of them at the same time since they're both asleep. So Reed's gonna wake up. Will Gertrude wake up? She's still asleep. Okay. No worries. So we pass by Gertrude, she's asleep. Reed wakes up. That still takes pretty much his turn, I think, at this point, is that he wakes up and like noticing something's happening. There's things like, I think there's a heavy thump next to him as one of these stone homunculi lands next to him. Remember, they're kind of like cat size. These strange bat-like gargoyle kind of creatures. Lands next to him and he kind of wakes up and looks over. He's gonna shout, "We're under attack! Under attack! Help!" And obviously Cristoff is at this point already pulling his stuff, but Gertrude will go ahead and wake up once people start shouting. So luckily, big round where a lot of damage could be done to us, but luckily they were far enough away and we were able to get some shouts out, so everybody's going to be awake. Luckily, the one person who actually needs to put on armor is the person on watch, so they already have their armor on, which is Cristoff. Gertrude and Reed do not have any armor, which makes it really difficult in the fight, but you know, could be worse. Cristoff having to do a fight without any armor on is pretty bad when he's your tank. Which is gonna bring us all the way back up to the top of Cristoff. Well, Cristoff's awake. He will go ahead and use his item interaction to limber up his shield. He's gonna stand up. Obviously, he's going to run over to the one. Actually, these guys flew in, so let's determine where they go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cristoff, and then everybody else is on Reed. Gotcha. And the rest of these guys are down on Reed. So Gertrude right now, she's doing fine. Also, the donkeys at this point are starting to freak out. We have a couple of donkeys with us. If you're new, watch it. Now you know. We have a couple of donkeys with us, and they should be waking up and causing a ruckus at this point. All right, that is Cristoff though. He stands up. He's got two of these creatures right next to him. So he's going to turn around and try to give one a little smackety smack. He gets 2 attacks, luckily. And these guys do not have a lot of hit points, so hopefully we can hit them. 17. I'm pretty sure 17 hits these guys. What is their AC? 13. I think it's on here. It is indeed. All right, so we hit 1. All right, so all we got to do is roll a 2. Famous last words. We do not. We roll a 1. All right, this first one he hits goes down to 1 hit point. Gets smacked real hard. Now here's the thing. He could try to finish that one off, but he also has a pretty good shot if he doesn't roll a 1 of taking out another one. Or because we're going to use, I said we're going to use some homebrew stuff. We're going to use homebrew morale, which means once creatures are down to 50% of their health or 50% of the party, their side of the combat is gone, they start making active checks to see if they're going to stay in the fight or not. So I think he'd rather hit 2 of these things, because these things are constructs, but they are intelligent and under some sort of command. You know what? That's a good point. I'm gonna let Cristoff make an, I guess that would be an Arcana check, which he's not trained in, and he has a disadvantage because he's still exhausted. A 9 and 12 on the die. He doesn't have any intelligence modifier. So let's make a DC real quick, but I don't think he's going to pass that. He surely does not. So he doesn't know, so he's going to attack the one that's already weakened. Why not? That was all a lot of talk for a whole lot of nothing, because he's not going to hit with a 9 on the die. So big swing and a miss from Cristoff. Does he have any? No. So, quick question for us. Can he maneuver to get next to Reed or Gertrude, next to one of his allies, without provoking an attack of opportunity? No, he cannot. He's stuck where he is. Alright. Well, we can't really take those extra hits for free. We're not going to do that. Alright, so we have 2 of these creatures that are going to attack Cristoff. Luckily, they don't have anything like pack tactics or anything like that we have to worry about. We just have to worry about their normal poisony thing. They get a +4 to hit. But he's an 18 AC, so they gotta roll a 14 or better. We're good there. We're gonna do these one at a time because this will be important. Alright, so one's gonna miss. The second one is going to hit. So, he will take 1 point of piercing damage. So he'll go down to 13 hit points. And he needs to make a Constitution saving throw DC 12. Okay, this is really important, Cristoff. You gotta make this save, buddy. If you don't get at least close to it, it's not good. Now, he doesn't have any bonus con saves. Only dex saves. So, we're gonna do our best here. That is exactly a DC 12 dex save. Or, sorry, con save. So, he does not get the poison condition. That is good. So he is able to fend them off. So we have 3, and they're going to be on Reed. Well, that'll hit Reed. That's 1, so he's going to take 1 point. And then he also needs to make a con save. He will pass. Second one's going to go in for another little bitey bite. Will also hit him. He will need to make a con save, which he will fail, but he's not going to fail it by 5 or more. So he has the poison condition. We're going to put the poison down on here. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead because goodness knows that I'll forget about it. Reed is poison. But he's not failed by 5 or more, which is the bad one. If he fails by 5 or more, he goes unconscious. Don't want. And next one will be a miss. Alright, so we don't have to worry about that. Alright, that is all our monsters. Oh, I forgot to roll one's the morale. Oh, okay. So, we will say that that was the one that didn't hit him already. So, oh, they're not going to do that. They're constructs. That's why I didn't do it. They're constructs. So, normally we would do morale rolls, but these things are constructs. And constructs are specifically like these guys are, they are tethered to their master. So they serve a master. They have good intelligence, but they don't necessarily have a lot of free will or self-preservation instinct. They're going to stay in this fight no matter what. Unless they are told to pull back. Which I don't think that the master, whoever their master is, would do at this point. So I think we're good at that point. Alright. That brings us to Gertrude. Gertrude's awake. She gets herself up. She looks around. She sees nobody's actually on her. Now, we really need to protect Reed. Reed's got 3 around him. So, she could also try to bless. Bless is a really good one for her. I think she wants to save her basically 1 spell slot. And not have to worry about that right now. Can she get to Reed? Question mark. Yes. Alright, so she's going to get to Reed and use her bonus action to give him the help action. We're going to have her, so she's going to move up next to Reed. They kind of go back to back against these creatures. So that's her bonus action. She has a standard action, and I think before she came in, she'd use Radiant Flame because that is her most powerful thing she can do. With a +5, she will attack one of the ones that's on Reed. And I don't think 10 does not hit them. So Radiant Flame shoots out from her staff, but then hits against the ground, the swampy, wet ground, and doesn't really do anything. Well, poop. That could have gone way better. Alright, but at least she's got that help action. We'll give him, we can decide whether he wants to use that. I mean, he'll probably use it on an attack. Speaking of, it is our friend's turn. The Reed, RPC. He's here. He's going to pull a dagger, look at one of these creatures, and give it a little stabby stab. And yeah, I think he is going to use the help action to offset that poison condition, so he doesn't have disadvantage on it. Won't matter. Dang. Alright. Now, when you get the poison condition, it lasts until, I believe, the start of their next turn. End of their next turn. Okay. So he's still poisoned for now. Into your next turn, which is going to be the homunculus. Alright, well that's the bottom of the round. We go back up to the top again. Alright, that's Cristoff. Cristoff still has these two creatures next to him. He can't really move away to get them. He sees this one is desperately injured where he's cleaved like part of the stone away from his body and is still like a broken toy trying to work towards him and still try to attack him and bite him. So he's probably will intuit that pretty readily that they're not going to run from this fight. So I think he's going to try to put that first one, that injured one, down. Easily done. He rips through one of them. Gonna turn around and swing at the other one. Try to free himself here. That'll definitely be a hit. All we gotta do is not roll a 1, remember. Okay. He kills the other one. Alright, question. Can he now get to read? I think that's more likely, so I think +3 for this roll. Oracle roll. 18, yes. Alright, so he's also going to go next to read. So the party has circled up now. They're doing that action hero thing where they're all back to back with the guys around them. Which is good because you want Cristoff next to him because he has the interception fighting style. Means he basically provides DR, which is really nice, damage reduction. So he can take hits and soak some of that. Now that's not going to help with the poison condition at this point, but it's the best we got. So we've got 3 creatures, we've got 3 targets. Let's re-roll to see if everybody's going to stay on the same target. Probably not. All right, so we've got 2 they're going to go for Cristoff now. And the last one's actually going to go for Gertrude. Okay. Alright, so 1 on Cristoff. Miss. Second one on Cristoff. Hit. Alright, so Cristoff will take another point of damage. And he needs to make a Constitution saving throw of 12. He's going to pass. Alright, so no poison condition for him. He's still in it. He's doing his fighter thing. He's knocking them away with a shield. He's swinging at them with his sword. Keeping everything at bay. Doing the thing he's supposed to be doing. And we have 1 attack on Gertrude. Miss. Lovely. Love to see that. And this poisoned condition on Reed goes away. So that brings us up to Gertrude. Gertrude has everybody around here. There's only 3 of these creatures left. Everybody's in pretty good condition, so she's not going to do any healing. I don't think, because she only gets 1 spell per day, so I don't think she wants to blow something like Bless right now. So I think what she's going to do is I think she's going to use this Hungry Jaws, which she doesn't do very often. She can use her Hungry Jaws ability, and she's going to clamp down her she's a big crocodilian kind of lizard folk, Saurian. Saurian is our custom in this world, which is basically where you put all the scalies. So anything that's lizard folk or dragonborn or troglodytes or anything like that all fall into Saurian category. They're all treated essentially as one ancestor in the setting. So mechanically, you can play whatever. But it's an easier way to kind of fold them all in together. You can kind of think of them as heritages of the same overarching ancestry. We do the same thing with Reed, who is a halfer, which includes halflings and gnomes and Sperfniblin and all those kinds of creatures. All fall within that as well. So she's going to do her Hungry Jaw. She's going to attack the one that's right on her with her bonus attack. Oh boy, that's going to do it. All right, so she gets to do 1d6 plus 1. And she crunches down on one of these things and rips it apart with her teeth. And that one is gone. So I was worried this fight could have gone really, really bad. Now, I should know not to say that before the fight's over, but it did have the possibility with a couple of bad rolls to go way differently very quickly, especially since people were asleep to begin with. But we're not going to have to worry about that. But she still has her actual action, so she's going to turn around with her staff and buffet one of these that's on Cristoff. And she's going to try to smash this thing with her staff. She's going to use that in both hands for a D8. And does just enough damage to take out another one. Gertrude, despite being an expert and not really built for combat, has been one of the probably the most effective combatant that we have. I think she is still in the lead for kill count, surprisingly. It helps that Radiant Flame, +5 to hit, 2d6 radiant damage right off the bat is really, really good. And she has bonus actions where she can attack too, even though I don't use that very often. So, that is that. And we are going to move on to Reed. Reed's got one of these creatures in front of him. He doesn't really have any shenanigans because he is a 0 level character, so he's just going to try to give him a little stabby stab. He will hit. And he'll do the minimum 2 points of damage to it. Alright, that brings us up to Cristoff. Cristoff's going to make 2 attacks. I can't imagine this thing's going to live. Definitely is going to get hit there. Literally can't live through this attack. Gets max damage, and Cristoff cuts down the last homunculi. And we are returned. The quiet of the forest. So everybody kind of... Alright. That it? Was that all of them? I'll kind of look around and like toe at some of these small stone creatures. Yeah, I think so. I think these things are dead. What the heck are these things? That sounds like a Gertrude question. Gertrude, who is in fact trained in Arcana, will make a little roll here. Oh, she gets a natural 20. She knows exactly what these things are. So she very much tells them, like, hey, I know exactly what these things are. I'd already spent a hit dice for her, so we have not recovered. I have not done their long. We will fill that up after we're done here. Because I already rolled for Gertrude's watch, so I know that we are going to make it through that evening for sure. So, what does Gertrude know about these creatures? Well, we can take a look at the stat block because that's going to tell us quite a bit of information. So she knows these things are constructs. They're constructed creatures. They are typically bonded to some sort of master and can communicate telepathically with that master as long as they are on the same plane. So there's no idea about like how close or how far away their master might be. So she knows that. Let's give her some extra information since she rolled a nice fat natural 20. So let's jump over to our Solo Dark thing over here. These are the Solo Dark prompts, so you can go get these from free from Shadow Dark if you want them. It's to help playing solo RPGs. You have 2 things that you put like verbs and nouns together, or other sorts of things like that on the table. Kind of give you inspiration. Let's see if we can get some inspiration here. So 54 and 71. 54 would be conceal. 71. Conceal magic. Now we said that these were bat-like creatures, so I think we're going to play into that. So she's bending down and kind of like picks up like one of their tiny little heads. Strange. They look so close to flesh-like beings, as though only if somebody really looked at them closely would they understand that they are not what they appear to be. And I think the others pick them up and start looking at them. They've got like these creatures have like puffs of hair kind of like taxidermied onto them and stuck onto them to kind of give this idea as kind of like fleshy coloring paint on them that they are supposed to be bats, so if people see them flying around at night, they don't really give it too much thought. Even though lifting up and holding them, they are so significantly heavier than a bat that it's clear that they must fly by magic and not by the mobility of any actual wings physics. Like that would not work. They're too heavy. They are heavier than a coconut, so could not be carried. Huh. Kind of looks at it. You have any indication as to they'd be out here? I mean, were these things looking for us? And I'm gonna give him, I feel like, because whoever's got the best insight check, which I think is probably gonna be him, since he has a 15 or has a +5 to it. Okay, a 13. Let's check a DC for that. That's a DC 12. Perfect. So, DC 12, that's pass. I think Houston looks at it, but I don't know. They kind of swarmed on me to begin with, but then changed tactics and started attacking you two. So that makes me wonder if they knew who we were. It almost seems unplanned, as if they were here for another reason, maybe? Because I remember they saw the one that was attacking me, and then it turned and started attacking Gertrude. But Gertrude hadn't actually hit it or done anything, just got closer to it. I think that Cristoff would be like, yeah, no, that's what I would expect anybody in a fight. If you have fighting one person and another enemy comes into view, that you might switch to that enemy just to protect yourself. But if you were bound and determined to take one person, obviously you and your comrades would put most of your emphasis on attacking and subduing that one person. Simply try to keep the others at bay while doing that. Huh. At which point Gertrude will pipe up and go, there is a location we learned of not far from here said to have monsters. Well, that we should give it a wide berth. I wonder if these creatures came from that direction. Cristoff, which direction they came from. I mean, Cristoff was surprised, but let's give him a little check. I think like this feels like a memory kind of thing. Like, he's sitting there and like rolling things back. So I think that that's basically just a straight up intelligence check. He's not gonna have anything he can add here. You know what? I will make it a survival check, because he could look at tracks and stuff and try to figure out maybe where they came from, things like that. So I will let him make a survival check for this, because he does have that skill. Now, it doesn't matter, he's at disadvantage. I don't think anybody else has survival who can help. And Reed for certain doesn't. Okay, we're not going to get any help. I think we're going to stick with our DC 12. That's going to be our scene DC for right now. So that'll be for all our rolls. Okay, he's going to have disadvantage. He does have the opportunity. He needs to roll a 9 or better on 2 dice. Which he does. So, is that answer yes? I kind of think so. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, we take a look at it, and he starts poking around, being like, see, you can see where they landed here, and they dug into the ground with their feet. It does seem like they came from west. So I'm going to say that they came from this location, which is a point of interest that we got tipped off about. There is this folk religion site that's over there, but they do know that it's monster occupied with some pretty dangerous monsters. That site is APL 03, so it's for average party level 3. So we're giving it a wide berth because we are not really even APL 01. We're not even really average party level 1 because we have a 0 level character in our party. So we were like, well, we're going to give that a wide berth. That's definitely not a thing we want to investigate at this point. So I'm going to write that down in our notes. So upon investigation, homunculi appear to have come the direction of the monster infested folk religion site. That's important for us to remember. Okay. How is everybody else? Is anybody hurt? Cristoff's like, I'm scratched up a little bit. He's like, yeah, it took a bit. Also like, I'm still a little bit injured. Well, let's Gertrude's like, I will take watch. Let's rest for the rest of the night. Hope that nothing else comes. Perhaps we should put out the fire. And she kind of probably not gonna put water, probably throw some dirt on it and then mash up the fire. That way we do not attract any more attention. Good call. Cold. Not that cold anyway, so I think we'll be fine. And everybody beds back down. Now again, I said that we rolled for Gertrude's watch and we already know that nobody's coming, so at this point they can finish their long rest. So this will go back up. She will recover 1 hit die. And she will recover her Hungry Jaw's ability. How's everybody else doing? Cristoff will recover his hit points. He will lose his 1 level of exhaustion, which is a big win for us. And I will go ahead and take this stamina meter. I'm going to copy this. And redo it. Be like, okay, you know, we should do bullet point. Party completes their long rest. Their stamina meter will be reset to 0. If you don't know what the stamina meter is, or this is the first time you're watching it, or you haven't watched us do the solo RPGs, or you're not sure how it works just in general, don't worry. This will all make sense here in a minute. Essentially, we do this instead of, I like to do this as a different way of doing hex crawling as opposed to just counting hexes as hours while you travel. So it's really about like how much effort does it take you to actually go through these areas. If you watched one of the streams earlier that we did in the week, I was talking about that system and how after doing this as solo RPG and doing it in a lot of other places, like I do need to tweak how things work a little bit. But still doing, just to make it a little bit more in line with what I want. I think that is everybody. Nope. Alright. So we are good. Everybody has finished their long rest. Morning comes. The day begins to heat up pretty big, pretty expectantly. So it's going to be seasonably warm. We're going to have high gusting winds. We're going to have disadvantage on range, like high sustained winds. So even as they're like breaking camp and getting things, you can hear the groaning of the trees as they're playing. Things are starting to pick up for the day. But otherwise, it is clear. There's barely a cloud in the sky. It is pretty warm. Not as hot as it was the day before, but still pretty warm. Which is pretty good because this is a colder area, and we're in late spring. So it is pretty comfortable, honestly. As everybody packs up, and we can take a look at where we are. Take a look at... We camped here. So ideally, we're just headed straight to the northwest to get to what we're looking for. At this point, we are going to probably need to make another survival check. I do want to make an edit here. The party camped here. That was just for me to remember in between sessions. I think Gertrude will use kind of a... She has something, right? No. Why did we let her do it? That should have been a... I think it's because she was the one who got told with it. So this feels like more of a Cristoff role for survival than to track where they're going, because nobody has like navigation tools. He just has calligraphy. So Cristoff will do this, and Gertrude will go ahead and use guidance on him to give him that extra D4. Reed can't really give. Technically, you could give the help actions to people because that's kind of like the 5e rules, regardless of whether you have any training or proficiencies in the ability to help them or not. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think the more that I play the game, the more I'm like, well, you can't. It's such a powerful thing to get the help action. And I kind of like it to be, well, you kind of have some amount of information or something you can give that your character would have any insight to be able to provide help with that. So since neither of them can, because there's a magic way to do it, that now he no longer has disadvantage, so that's really good for us. Okay, so we rolled perfectly average. So we got, that is a 10, 13. We got a 13. Let's check our DC. Not that. Ooh, we rolled really well. And for our DC, the DC roll is low. It's a DC 6, which we'll make. We, in fact, double that. So he's like, yeah, if we just head out this way, he takes a little bit of time to walk around and be like, okay, I can get our bearings and look at the sun and have an idea of where they are. All right. So we head in this direction. We should get there. And Gertrude knows that it's probably a day or two's walk. We know if we hit the highlands, if we hit the uplands, then we've overshot it. We know that it's right before the uplands area. So that should give us an idea. So that's this hilled area. So most of the stuff that's going to be in this area right here is going to be hills. So if we get to a place where we're going past it on either side, or we're up into it, we know that we have overshot what we're looking at. We also know that it is on the river. So that should give us a pretty good indication of where we know it's on a river. Technically, I think this is a brook. Yeah. So we know it's on a brook. That kind of gives us an idea of knowing the size of the river that we're going to, which is, I'm not going to pull up the river sizes, so it's brook. So pretty small waterway. So not going to be shouldn't be particularly difficult for them to traverse. But they know if they hit it, and they're in front of the hill section, so if they hit, basically any of these X's, they know they're very, very close to it if they don't hit it immediately. That's how they know that they are sort of like, once they hit in this, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hex kind of zone, they know they're in the right area. We don't get perfect instructions, which is one of the things that I like to do with hex crawling and solo RPG stuff, is like, you have a pretty good idea what sometimes in sailing, or used to be in sailing, I don't really use it anymore, what is called hitting the box, which means you hit the area in which you can visually be able to see the thing that you're looking for. And so it becomes like the search area box for where you're actually trying to find the thing that you're looking for. So they know if they hit the river before the hills, and they can probably see the hills because they're going to be rising up, they're in the right area. And they know it's a brook. So they have a kind of added size about how big this waterway is. They run into a big river or a tiny like rill or something like that, they know that's not the right river. All right. Well, without too much ado, let's continue forward. So we're going to move on. So one of the things I want to do is usually we roll a d4, and that is our effort for moving into one of these. I did want to change some of the stuff in it. I think with this is that we have our mules and we have our boat with us, so I don't think getting through this swampy muskeg thin kind of area is going to be particularly difficult. So I don't think, in fact, I think it's going to be much easier than it would otherwise be. So normally this would be a thing, trying to get through an area like this would be give us disadvantage, in which case I'd roll 2d4, and I'd take whatever the higher result is. I know it's a little confusing for disadvantage taking the higher number, it's just how this works. So instead, we're just going to roll straight. Okay, 4 out the gate. That's not great for us. So our stamina meter goes up to 4. So how this works, if you're new, is once we hit these, what is basically their passive con saving throws, they'll have to start making active con saving throws for every hex or every movement they do after that. For every time that they fail doing that while they're trying to travel, they get a level of exhaustion, so it gives them an idea as to when they should probably make camp. And this is tracked individually for each PC. So getting a 4 off the bat is not great. So it's really tough going as we kick our way through this area. No, just here we go. Here we go. Here we go. What do you think? Should we make this bigger? I feel like we should make this bigger. I'm gonna make this bigger. There we go. Because that's what we're looking at right now. And you know what? I could just do... I could save us a lot of trouble by just doing... That's fine. We move into this area. So anytime we move into a new hex, we're going to roll a d12. And I am just going to put this here. 1d12, please. 6. Great. So if we roll... This is a random encounter check. Anytime we move into a hex or do something while we're doing this hex crawl process, we roll a 1. There's some sort of creature encounter. Most likely a combat, but not always. We roll a 12 at some sort of wilderness dressing, which is generally not a creature encounter. But sometimes it is, and sometimes can also be a combat. But it's generally not. And anything that we roll 2 to 11, nothing happens. Now this is a new area, so we're going to roll a d20 for a point of interest. Now it doesn't mean that we roll too high. We need to roll a 1, actually, to see if there's... to get a point of interest. Now, we didn't roll that. That doesn't mean there's not a point of interest here. It just means that we did not stumble across it. So if we want to take the time to search for it, that takes a different action. We requires us to expend more stamina. So once we get into that search box area, that's where we'll start doing this kind of stuff. Now, we have the privileges to... I already knew it was there. So we could remove that heart if we wanted to and give us some search area in there, which I might do. I might do once we get there, because we don't know where it is specifically. I just kind of picked randomly where it was. Or at least our characters don't know where it is. We might have to separate our knowledge a little bit. Okay, no point of interest, nothing in there. Everything looks great, but we are able to see these next 2 areas, so let's roll a 2d6. Alright, it's going to be more swamp for the first one, and more swamp for the second one. What do you know? Can you believe it? Easy to... Alright, so I'm going to grab our terrain tool, get our paintbrush here. This is, by the way, hextml.playest, not playtest, playest, .net, if you want to use a free web app that does lots of cool hex mapping. Super useful. Use it a ton. We'll grab these guys and boop, boop. Now we know as we move into this hex, we can see the hexes around us. We leave our woodlands behind and go back down deep, sort of into this watery, awful kind of place to get around. Now, luckily, it's still in the spring, so probably not too many things like mosquitoes and biting bugs at this point, but that will change here in the coming weeks. But I don't think it's going to be an issue for us now. Right, well, nothing to do here, so let's keep moving on. So we're just going to keep going forward. We're going to stay on our trail. We rolled well enough that we're now out of the woods, so we can see the sun and stuff, so we can keep us on track. Shouldn't be too difficult. So, any random encounters? No. How much effort do we spend? 2. Any point of interest? No. We'll just notate down here our 2. We're up to 6, so it means we're kind of halfway through the day. So this has been quite a bit of a slog through this tough terrain. Now, we got really, really, really lucky last time. We covered so much ground because I rolled so many 1s on our d4 as we rolled through this area. That it's crazy. I think we started here and ended up all the way here in one day. We did a crazy amount. We rolled a lot of 1s, which is good. Low rolls are good. We like low rolls. All right, so we're getting there. But now we can see this area. Same thing. We're gonna roll some 2d6s. That's just my little biome diversification. 8, more swamp. 7 is more swamp. 11 is going to be hills. wrong thing. So we're gonna see some. Get over here. We're gonna get. Bam, bam, and then now we're gonna have some hill over here. Dry land over here. See that? But this hill is primarily all alone. We know that's not going to be the upland, and we also haven't hit a river. All right, well, that's that. So let's move forward again. Come on, low rolls, low rolls, low rolls. 1! Great, that's exactly what we want. We want a 1. 1s are our friends. Keep around that die that rolls really poorly. In a system like this, it's very useful. All right, any random encounters? No. Any point of interest? Now, if we were in different areas, if we could roll something other than a 1 and get a point of interest, but for where we are right now, we have to roll a 1. So nothing there. And we can roll our another 2d6 4 times. 2, 1, 2. All right. All right. Oh, we rolled 2 10s. Excellent. Which is going to be 2 drives in wetlands. Okay, so 2 forested areas. Interesting. I have to do. Trying to do the table in my head. Forested area, forested area. Well, there's no reason not to keep going forward. We will continue forward, and at this point, we're going to find the brook. So let's expend a little bit of energy. Another 1. Love to see it. Things are finally coming on, breaking off our way. Love it. Random encounters? Hopefully not. No random encounter. Any point of interest? Ah, close, but no cigar. So, no. So we march forward. We're gonna have like a marches northwest. Swamps. Swampland. Looking for monster infested haven. I don't know if we know what type of haven it is yet. I don't think so. I think we just know. I think we said, well, we'll roll for that later. Well, later is very, very closely approaching to become now. We'll have to figure that out here in a minute. Excellent. Get that. All's well there. All right. In here. So we're in the point. And now we need to ask, did we get any information about the... we had to have gotten information about the biome that was in if we put it on the map. Did we get information about the biome it's in? Question mark. I think that's extremely likely, so +5 to the roll. I think, yeah, 20 plus. Like, so that would be 20 plus. I would probably interpret as a yes and kind of question as an answer to what we asked. So yes, and we know it's right before the hills. So we know that we're on the brook. We know that we need to follow the brook. But we don't know whether we need to go upstream or downstream. If we go upstream, that'll lead us towards the source. This feels like I would either give us a nature check or a wilderness check to understand a little bit about rivers. I mean, this is really common practice. I mean, you know that rivers start like in the high areas and go down to like the ocean, which is like the low areas. So it's a pretty simple check, but let's take a look. So I think you could either do a nature check for understanding that or a survival check. I think either one of those would work out really well. Obviously, Cristoff has survival, which gives him a +3 to that roll. Gertrude has nature, and she gets a +5 to that roll. Yeah, and Reed, of course, being a court brat, doesn't know any of this stuff. So because these things are so related, I think that Cristoff can give Gertrude the help action. So Gertrude does not need to necessarily give herself, though I guess she could give herself guidance. Unless they have changed that in 5.5. I know they've changed. You have to tell them what specific check they're going to make. But I still think you can give it to yourself, right? Can't you give it to yourself? If only there was some way we could look that up. Oh, wait, there is. Guidance. You touch a willing creature. You can be a willing creature. So there's no reason for us not to use the whole bevy of sweets. So we'll go 17 plus 3 is a dirty 20, plus 5 is a 25. What was our DC here? I can't imagine we'll get a 25, but we do not. It is in fact a 12. We way overshoot it. We're like, so the two of them get there and kind of look at it. They kind of look around. All right, well, there's nothing here. So river seems to be running west, right? West. Yeah, kind of west, maybe southwest, downstream. Now, we all know that rivers usually start in the highlands, so if we know that this is abutting those hills, if we head upstream, we should potentially hit it. It should probably be right before the fall line. The highest point of... and the fall line. We can just say the fall line. This is a weird thing about rivers. This is one of those weird things you learn is doing a dungeon master sometimes. Is about fall lines. So fall lines is where is like the highest point of navigation on a river. Basically where you're going to find most of the waterfalls that happen. Those are usually fall lines where you see a pretty drastic elevation change, which would be from the ground up into the hills. We know that this area is probably very close to that. So we know that we need to go upstream. So we can follow the river at this point. But we also know that we are not in the wetlands, so it's definitely not here. No reason to hang out here, so we're going to move upriver, and that's going to put us right into the target area that we, as kind of DM, me and you, know, have access to the map, and the characters don't have that. We know it's going to put us right in the spot. Oh, it's going to put us in the right terrain, at the right place. We're going to be able to see the hills from where we are. So all that stuff is perfect. But before we do that, let's find out what these two biomes are real quick. Both of these are still going to be based off of our hills. 9. Okay, so that's going to be one drier. Here. One drier and then swamp. Gotcha. Alright, so this one down here is actually going to end up being a bunch of heavy forest. And then over here we're going to have more swamp. And the group will move to the northwest again, following the bend of the river as it heads back in that northwest direction, following the curve, and move into a little bit more of a swampy muskeg kind of area. Now knowing that they are generally within the area that they need to be. So, now that we've hit this, we gotta spend a little bit of expenditure. Alright, 2. That puts us up to 10. So we're right at the cusp of when we need to start making checks. We also have the potential of a random encounter, which we do not get. And do we see the point of interest? We do not. So this will be the first. Oh, excuse me. This will be the first time that we will actually search one of the hexes. So one of the things you can do instead of moving hexes is you can actively clear the hex to make sure whether there is or is not a point of interest in there. Now, we know there is a point of interest in here. And the way that I generally run this is that if you decide to dedicate that time to looking for it and scouring this area for a point of interest, you will know for sure whether there is or is not a point of interest in there. So there's no like investigation checks or wilderness survival checks. There's no checks that you might fail and have to keep researching this hex over and over. You either find something or you don't if you spend the time to do that. They are going to spend the time to do this. And they will spend 3. So it takes them a while. That makes sense. And at this point, they are getting tired. So we do know. So like I said, I don't track time. Instead, I kind of track energy expenditure to kind of determine how long and how much effort it takes you to get through an area. So at this point, it's like late into the afternoon, even though we didn't move far. It just tells us that this terrain was really, really difficult to get over for the most part. And wind our way through with our boat and our donkeys and trying to make sure that we're going in the right direction and stopping for breaks and doing all that stuff. It's just hard going. Did not make a ton of progress. And that's fine. It's just how it goes sometimes. Because, wait, we started here. I mean, we did pretty well. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes, which is about 5 hexes, which is 10 nautical miles, which is and about 11.5 normal miles or statute miles. So it's not the fastest pace in the world, but you look at the terrain, and you're like, well, that totally makes sense. Why that would take long. It's mostly walking through dense forest and like swamp. We eventually hit this area, we spend our time, and we find our haven. So let's develop our haven a little bit. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to get our hex notes. Yep. And bring that up. Okay, so there's a haven here as an APL 01. We know that is a monster occupied. We don't know of what type. Actually, before we do this, I want to find out what this hex is. Just out of curiosity's sake. Do our little biome roll. 7, what do you know? It's more swamp. Out here, let's take our little swamp. Boop. But we have found this location. We're going to be moving up on it. We also do need to roll for a random encounter when search as well, because those can still happen. No random encounters. So luckily we don't get caught by any patrols or whatever these monsters might be that are here, which we don't know what they are yet. And I think let's go ahead and change our. Yeah, there was. One moment. Stuff. This. Add it to. I feel like I always try to overbear things and then realize, like, oh, it doesn't look very good on screen when I do. Okay. Let's look for our biome. What do we got here? We got some sort of like swamp and marshy kind of looking things. We don't need permission roll. There we go. What do you guys think? Let's go, let's go with... do this for right now. Say please. We travel through. And the haven after scouring the area. So I need to pull our thing up. Hi, how are you? So I just need to pull up our hex information. Go, and then we'll swap it back over to that. Look at founder. I'm just gonna pull it up and get us to the point that we need to be at real quick, which is our travel haven. Here we go. There we are. Perfect. Hold on. Perfect. Well, I'm thinking about that. Perfect. All right. That all looks appropriate. Throw us back. Wait on. One moment. There we go. There. No. Yep. I've done it. There we go. All right. So our haven type. So let's roll 2d6. And we're going to try to slam these two things together if we can. If we can't, that's fine. 4. And a 2. That gives us some sort of gazebo, pergola, or pilgrim's rest. And what was the other one, though? 4, right? I think this is very close to, actually, the... very close to the The hell's storehouse? They rolled. Alright, so we can think that this is some sort of cache of something. What are we thinking? Like a gazebo, pergola, pilgrim's rest? It's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. That kind of makes me think Pilgrim's Rest, maybe? I think it's some sort of like supply cache. Dumped materials. Now we do know that this is a transportation breakpoint, so anybody who was up here around the headwater, so that's might be what it is. It's like an old storehouse, I feel like. Like it's an old storehouse. Let me go ahead, let's get a d6 roll real quick, just so I know. Yeah, so this is an old storehouse. Let's put this, okay, so this is an old storehouse, head of navigation. We have this sort of dilapidated storehouse that's sitting out here. And I'll just ask the Oracle, does it said at Pilgrim's Rest, so does it have like kind of like a dormitory aspect of it, or like a hostel kind of thing? I think that's likely. Sure it does. In fact, that should be a yes and. Yes and, I don't know. Yes and, let me roll over here and see something off of our prompts. 7864. Sacrifice. Well, that's never good. Sacrifice. Oh, sacrifice death. Alright, there's some sort of... Man, some sort of like massacre or something that's happened here? That's not good. Alright, I don't know what that's going to be, so we're going to put it down here. So there's going to be like a hostel and... Nice. Death helps if I can spell sacrifice, right? But... Oh. And I'll put that in little quotation marks just so I know, hey, that's our little tag thing. So it's an old storehouse, head of navigation. Got that going on. Perfect. Let's go back to our hex stocking and see if we can get something else. All right, so we already know this is monster occupied. We don't know what our common travelers to encounter are. So these are people that would normally kind of be in this area, or could be in this area. 4 and 6. Foragers, herders, hunters, and trappers. That all makes sense. Raiders, monsters, and war bands. All of those make sense. Alright, so I'm going to take this. What do we think? That's like 7 of them. Let's roll just roll 2d8 again and pick from those 4 and 3. Or who was 3 and 4? 2, 3. So hunters and trappers. Sometimes be found here. I guess that makes sense. This is like a deep trading post, outpost kind of feel. That's kind of the idea that we're going for. So it's got this kind of deep outpost vibe to it that's been overrun by some sort of monsters. So I believe it's 1 and 6. We're deep in the wilds. Counter. We were going to do hunters and trappers. There's got a little bit of a Jeremiah Johnson mountain man kind of aspect going on here, which makes sense. We're beyond the borderlands. This gets into places where there's not maybe a ton of law. Maybe there is. We don't know. We don't know anything about this place. That's the entire reason we're doing the hex crawl. So on the outside here, we see this kind of dilapidated old storehouse and this this hostel. The hostile hostel. That's what we're looking at. All right, so the group is kind of going up on that, and they're pulling up and they have found this spot, kind of sitting out there. They kind of, hunker down. They're looking at it. So I'm going to let them make... They're going to make some checks. They're going to make a perception check. Because they're going to sit here and kind of spend a minute to see if they see anything moving around. Because we don't know what kind of monsters or anything that might be here. We do know that we were told this place is dangerous and that it is overrun by quote-unquote monsters. So, I think everybody's going to make an individual perception check. And let's set our DC for that. Oh good, we rolled low. So that's a DC 10. So it's likely that everybody will hit it. Famous last words. Famous last words because Reed does not hit it with an 8. Cristoff gets advantage because he has his eagle eyes. And we'll definitely see something. And Gertrude will roll as well. And she, in fact, does not have a +1. So she just gets it. She just gets it. Alright. I was thinking 12 for the DC, and I'm like, that's not right. It's 10. I said it was 10. Alright, so those two. Now the question is do they see anything? I think it's 50-50. We have no idea what these monsters are at this point. They might be nocturnal, they might be diurnal, they might be crepuscular, so depending on what time, it's getting later in the day, they might be around, they might not be around, they might be indoors, they might be not at the location currently. So I think that's a 50-50 shot whether they see something. Do they see any quote-unquote monsters? Yes. Alright, let's find out what type. Oh, no. Oh, no. You hate to see it. You hate to see it, folks. Alright, we rolled a 6, which means they see some fiends. That's what they see. Not what you want to see. But here we are. Now we're here. Alright. So now we know that it is in fact fiend occupied. Now that sacrifice death part is probably going to be ritual. And given that we've read, is that what they see? Do they see? No, they do not see remains of human sacrifice. Okay, good. All right. So we see some fiends outside. We were able to see, and Gertrude has enough training arcana, so she will be able to recognize these creatures as fiends pretty regularly, pretty easily. She knows these are extraplanar beings. They're either fiends, so they might be devils, they might be demons, they might be something else, but they definitely are otherworldly. They're from a different plane. Now, they could wait till night, but that is a problem for most of our group. Besides Cristoff, nobody else can see in the dark. And fiends famously have dark vision. So, kind of going in at daytime is, even though we don't have a lot of light left, is probably the best idea. And we haven't used any resources. We're fresh. Should we just... I think they have a conversation to be like, do we just try to storm this place? Do we try to get in there and see if... just take it? Yeah. And Reed's like, I have no idea. I've never done anything like before. Gertrude kind of goes, She's also not much help. But Cristoff is a veteran warrior. We could run in there and do it. There's 3 of us. There's no telling how many there are inside. But that also means that we gotta leave the donkeys and stuff out here. We can't really storm a building with them. So, good thing is, if we all die in there, the donkeys aren't our concern anymore. Whatever happens to them and our supplies is whatever it's going to be. We could wait until night falls. I can see pretty well at night, but I know the 2 of you don't see as well. Walked a lot today, but we haven't had much of an encounter. We're in pretty good fighting spirit. It would be nice to know, scout out at least to see whether this is a reasonable thing we can try to overtake. Our entire reason here, now remind me if I'm wrong, Reed. Sorry, my lord. Remind me if I am incorrect, but I think the entire reason that we are here is to see if this is a place where maybe we can take this and use it as a base of operations. Maybe where you want to put your holding. Is that correct, my lord? Yeah. No, that's correct. Yeah. So scouting might be good. Well, we haven't seen a ton of them, so I'm gonna guess there's maybe not that many of them here. So now, really, especially Cristoff, do you think that how reasonable do you think it is that we go in there and we attack them, and maybe we kill some of them, and can we dispose of their bodies, and maybe they just go missing, and people they're not going to be doing a manhunt for us if it turns out that we need to leave this place. It goes well, and it's always dicey. I mean, if they bleed, they're going to leave blood behind, and we got to have some place to throw the bodies. Now, luckily, we're in a very swampy area, so if we can weight them down, we can put them under the water, and that shouldn't be too big of an issue. And at this point, Gertrude kind of narrows. In fact, many fiends, when they are killed on this plane because they are not of material plane, will be taken back to the planes of hells or abyss or wherever deep dark pits they come from. It may be a non-issue. All right, that's good to know. So I guess the answer is maybe. He's still not used to making decisions like this. Okay. They've gotten a good look at stuff. They're gonna be like, is there like an outer office or like something they can maybe peek into that's not like a gigantic storehouse where if there's a buttload of people inside that they're gonna immediately get spotted. Okay, yeah, there's maybe a few outbuildings. We said that there was like a hostile area, so maybe that's actually offset. Looks like there's maybe like a bunkhouse. Maybe we go check that out first before we try to go into the big storehouse. Maybe more than one storehouse here. That's a good plan, my lord. Okay, Gertrude, if you would make the donkeys ready and try to keep them out of sight, and I guess we'll plan an approach. Stuff, I'll leave it to you to kind of pick maybe the safest way to get through. Try to sneak up and see if we can get some more information. If maybe this is going to be a plan, or maybe it's not. And that is the plan. I find that it is flush with fiends. Well, flush makes it sound like a lot. I'm just trying to be there's alliteration. I need to check out hostel slash not hotel hostel slash bunkhouse before engaging main storehouse. All right, so there's like a little hostel bunkhouse dormitory kind of situation. And probably, I would imagine this is a relatively small location. I'm gonna say maybe at most it probably has 20 bunks in it, so it's not a huge place, but you know, sizable. Like there could probably easily hold a dozen people in it. So, group will go forward. So we said that we're going to let Cristoff lead the way. Now, Cristoff is... I don't think we have anybody who's trained in stealth, do we? That was oversight on my part. Oh, no. Of course. Of course, the druid is. Lagawarda's Gertrude is. So, she is actually, I think, our best stealther. With her +2 to stealth. Because Cristoff's okay at stealthing, but he has disadvantage. Oh, but he has Mask of the Wild. Which usually means that I'm just generally going to give him advantage when he's stealthing because he can hide in that like natural light obscurement. they're moving through the swamp, it offsets his disadvantage for his stealth. So, but I still think technically she has the better stealth. So she is going to take. Tell you what, she will probably, maybe they'll go like one by one, so that way each of them can. They'll do it sort of like tactically, kind of like how the group of soldiers would. It's like, okay, she's gonna turn around and give like bless to Cristoff, and Cristoff will go at first because he is the most heavily armed and armored in case something bad happens. You know, Reed's not immediately fallen upon by half a dozen demons. She'll do that. She'll throw that on him. Let's get a DC. I guess we already did a scene DC, so we already did 10. So let's just keep that. So we're just gonna go scene AC 10, and we'll sneak up to the bunkhouse. Gonna be first they kind of group up. They they do their hand signals and stuff like that, and that will give Cristoff, who will have the ability to get his extra D4. Already looking good. Oh yeah, Cristoff disappears into the tall grass and reappears next to the side of the bunkhouse where they can just barely make him out. And should he? Are there any like shutters or stuff that he can peek inside of? So he's gonna poke inside and look through the shutters to see if there's anybody inside. I don't think he's well stealthed. These windows are not going to be difficult to look through. They're not even going to have glass in them, so they're just going to be opened or closed with the shutters that have like the little diamond on them, openings where he can look through it anyways. So I think it's relatively easy for him to pick in, and he's got the eagle eyes thing, so I'm just going to ask, is there something inside? I don't know. That kind of sounds like... Well, we saw them patrolling, so that makes me think likely there's something inside. Let's put it that way. Alright, so there is something inside. Doesn't mean that it's a creature. Let's ask, is it related to the death sacrifice stuff we saw earlier? Yeah, it is. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. That makes me think it's a bunch of bloody bodies and stuff. It feels like when you walk into playing Fallout and you walk into an area that's got like super mutants have been in, it's like, oh, there's just a bag of body parts. Cool. Neat. Fun. And so that's what he's looking at. Is like, got blood all over the walls, or probably dried at this point. I can't imagine it's wet. If we've had that information for days, and the person who had that information might have had it for a week. So there's there's a lot of... Are there bodies? Question mark? Yeah, okay. A bunch of like decayed bodies at this point that are starting to break down. Smells real bad. Do we see any creatures inside? No. Okay, so no creatures inside. Didn't see anything specific. So he does that. Oh, good. Ducks back down the windowsill. Looks back at the other two. He's him on. So Gertrude's like her. Reed. Gonna hit Reed with it. With a bless. Ooh, baby. It don't get no better than that. He follows Cristoff's steps immediately. He's also small, so he very easily disappears and then pops up next to Cristoff. Is back against the wall. Okay. Alright, I'm here. What smell? Bodies. Don't. Bunch of dead. Old. Not fresh. Didn't see anybody inside. Gonna waves at Gertrude. Gertrude can give herself stealth. Didn't do as good a job. But the 10 on the die is going to be the good stuff there. Now she's a bit of a thicker gal, so she's... trudging through the tall grass, and kind of with all her like bag of like herbs and stuff. It kind of the bunkhouse creaks a little bit as she kind of leans her weight against it. Smells of death. Okay. I'm gonna keep an eye out. If everything looked okay, I'll go open up one of the doors. And Cristoff is going to kind of the shutters. We didn't say whether they were. I think I alluded that they're. I was thinking they were kind of like part way open. Like clearly nobody's taking care of this place. So I think he's going to try to maneuver his way in. He had a pretty good stealth check, so I'm not that worried about it. Let that ride, and he will flip his way in, and they will drop down. He will drop down into it. Okay, so they sneak up the inside of getting dead bodies. We'll just go ahead and say ritually sacrificed. That makes sense. We'll have our classic demonic blood circles and pentagrams and whatnot. And EBGB evil stuff. So our boy Cristoff will sneak inside. Climbs in. And flops down onto the ground. Has a shield on his back, his sword, hand on a sword that's still sheathed. He's gonna start poking around. So I think for me that will be an investigation check, which he's not very good at. And Eyes of the Eagle works specifically on perception checks and not full screen. Gives an advantage on slight perception checks, specifically not investigation checks. You need the magnifying glass for that, which we of course do not have. So he's gonna be looking around. So he's gonna do a little search action. We said the scene gonna have flat DC 10. I think there's gonna be stuff to find in here. Probably not super hidden. Give him a little investigation check. Nope, he finds nothing. I think he gets to the point where he's like, to do stuff, he has to start like moving things, and he's trying to be stealthy still, so he's like, I can't. Anything that he can just visually look at, he doesn't really see anything. But there's still things like foot lockers and trunks and things he could maybe look at a bed, but he'd have to like move a body, and he doesn't know what's going on with these ritual circles. Stuff, those are active. They're probably not, but he's like, I don't know. I'm not trained in this kind of stuff. So he's going to meander his way over to the door at the end of the bunkhouse. And I guess really the question is there even a door? Like, has this thing been totally busted off of its inches or something like that? I think that's probably like a 50-50 shot. This thing's been like kicked open already. Busted. It's probably like half hanging, like the door's half hanging off of it. And like the door frame is kind of busted out where they kicked through the lock. And probably ripped it open and did whatever they did to these people inside. He's gonna poke out, see if he sees anybody. We'll go ahead and give him another perception check. He fails, so he doesn't see anybody immediately, and then he's gonna like stick his head out and around and wave towards his companions and start coming his way. Now the question is when he sticks his stupid head out there, is there anything out there? Luckily, no. So even though he rolled a bad perception check, technically he would have had an advantage on it. Nothing's there. So the group comes in and makes their way into this bunkhouse. And they're looking in here, looking around at stuff. I'm gonna give everybody a check to do something they want to do. I think Cristoff's like explains kind of the situation. I think there might be stuff here that might be useful for us, or maybe would give us some information about stuff. But to do that, we'd have to move things, and that's not going to. So, up to you whether we should do that or not. Gertrude is going to take a look at some of these rituals to see if she can kind of figure out what's going on with them. Reed is... What is Reed concerned with? What's kind of his jam in this situation? So he's got history or insight or persuasion. None of the things which are useful at all in this situation. Because he can't talk to the things. And maybe he knows something about that. And no, this is beyond the Borderlands. I can't imagine that he would know. But he might know something about the function of a place like this. That might be something he can make with a history check. Or maybe give him some insight as to... Maybe insight as to what happened here. That might be helpful. So who do we want to start with? Let's start with Gertrude. So she's going to do her thing. And then... No, let's start with Reed. Let Reed do it. Because I think Gertrude might give us the most salient information. But his is like, what happened here? Yeah, 18 on the die. Like I said, the DC for here is going to be 10 most of the time. For super easy stuff, it'll be 7. For a little bit more difficult stuff, it'll be like plus or minus 3. Makes it very easy to do this kind of stuff. So he does, and kind of gets through here and insight. So he doesn't know too much about the ritual stuff, but he does know a little bit about an area like this. So he's like, okay, so one of the things that we talked about so often, the prince would talk about, the advisors would talk about, court would be about supply lines and how do you get the taxes from places to places, and we would talk about so often how important these types of places, that they are the head of navigation is so important because that's how you get things to the river, and if you get things to the river, you can get a lot of things downstream much easier, which means if it's your capital or your stronghold is further downriver, then that is an easy way to get a large volume of goods and people going in that direction very, very easily. Very good method of transportation on a mass scale. So, I mean, this would be a great place to have because it means that it would be a big supply point. Now, we don't know too much about where the river goes, unfortunately. But we know how close we are to Green Lake, so it could be useful. So he's kind of like trailing off, starting to think about like the usefulness of the situation. Like, well, somebody was clearly built this place, and so somebody must have been using it for something. Maybe you can find some records. Those are going to be in the storehouse, though, about like who's in charge here, or who used to be in charge, who their fealty was to. Those will be important questions for us to ask if we decide that we want to take this place and hold it for our own. Do that, and somebody will come back probably wanting it. So they didn't retake it from the demons, fiends, or whatever. It might not exist anymore. At least not in the capacity where they could do anything. Very fragile state. And at that point, Reed kind of realizes he's talking to himself because the other two are kind of busy doing other stuff. He's like, right. Fine. Guess that's really more information for me anyways. Man, it smells really bad in here. I think he tries to like find something he can like pick up his nose to not have to smell these decaying bodies that he's standing around. And we will lead on. I think the next thing that we need to do is we need to check for a random. I think we'll roll a d6 now because I don't think we're going to have to worry too much about like wilderness dressing at this point because we're not really in the wilderness. So I think this is going to be primarily a d6 check. Okay, we did not roll a 1, so that means there's no random encounter. Because once you start spending places in a place that's occupied by monsters, it's the same way that I do with dungeon crawls. You guys are just hanging out in the dungeon where there's lots of monsters around. There's a chance the monsters might stumble across you while you're doing stuff. But luckily, luck is on our side, and that will not be the case. So instead, our girl Gertrude is going to make, I think, an Arcana check. So she's going to make an Arcana check about kind of what's going on here. There's no reason not to give guidance to herself. But she is not gonna make this check. The DC's 10 and she is just not. No, she is gonna make it. Because of that 1 point of guidance, she's gonna she's gonna end up getting through it. All right, perfect. So she does. She recognizes it, but that's such a low roll that I think she understands that this is like a death sacrifice ritual. And so she understands that these people were sacrificed for a reason. I'm gonna give her a follow-up medicine check if she can determine maybe like how old these bodies are, like how long ago did this happen. 7 plus or 5, that'll be enough. I don't know. Let's roll a d6. So we're gonna go. What are we gonna say? I think it is if they're in pretty good medium condition. I think there's. How do I want to do this? I think there's a like 50% chance it's been weeks. A like 33% chance that it's been months, and then a very small chance that it's just been days. So I'm gonna roll that on our d6. Okay, so it's been some weeks. So the bodies are fully like bloated, they're off gassing, it smells really bad, they're starting to decay. Like we're talking like soft tissue, like eyes and stuff like that are pretty much gone. Skin has pulled away from fingernails, making it feel like those corpses with fingernails are really long. It does look like probably maybe some animals have gotten into them. I think actually let's ask that question. Have animals gotten into them? Yes. Okay. So she sees it and she sees that animals have gotten into them. And question is, are there any dead animals around? Yes. Okay. And she's like, the dead animals have gotten into it, and there are like dead scavenging animals in here. So she's like, ooh, we shouldn't mess with the bodies. I think these rituals are active. That might kill us like it's killed these creatures. Right. Okay. Okay, God. What are we gonna do? Okay. Hey, what are you doing, Cutter? Yeah, you just woke up. What happened? They have reached the haven that they were looking for. And they have realized it's an old storehouse in the head of navigation waters right before the fall line, where this small brook goes up into the hills, where probably towards its source. And they know that this place has some fiends in it, and they are investigating the bunkhouse that's on the outskirts that have a bunch of dismembered people that have been done in some sort of like ritual sacrifice. They are trying to figure out what happened and whether they want to try to fight the fiends in this place and take it over. So I think that we have found, unless we want to move bodies and start messing with stuff, which I don't think is a good idea, and I don't think any of the PCs feel like that's a good idea after Gertrude's awareness of what's going on, that maybe they're going to have to move on to the storehouse itself. It's either that, or they can try to maybe lure one of the fiends in and see if it will talk to them, if they maybe capture it. That's a big if. It's assuming that they can even communicate with this thing, because they don't have any spells that would allow them to comprehend languages or tongues or anything to talk with these creatures if they don't speak their natural sort of like common for this area language. So I think they start to have that discussion, and as they have that discussion, I am going to take a short break, and I am going to refill my coffee, and we're going to come back, and they're going to make their next moves, which I think will probably be moving to the storehouse, or trying to pull in a fiend and see if they can get one of them to talk. Let me ponder upon that as I make some coffee. You guys hold on. I'll be back in just a minute. All right, we're back. This black blood of the earth tastes like earth. Delicious. I wanted to pull out a very specific die because there's something that we probably should have done last time that I want to do a little bit more in this series, but things have been really tough, so I haven't really been doing it. But this is the end of the session. This is a hit location die. If you're not familiar with it, it's just a D12, oversized D12 that has like a little spot on it where you take hits. Usually it's not important, but I do like to do it for lingering injuries, and I feel like we should are getting to the point where maybe we should start tracking some lingering injuries, especially since Gertrude had a very near-death experience. That maybe we should do that. Thought that might be fun. I'll roll it at the end, and then we'll go ahead and give her a reroll for as how she feels about her injury at this point. But for now, let's head back in. River of Heart. We hop back in. All right. So the group investigates. Rituals appear to be active. Tried to munch on corpses. All right. So that's the situation. It's not a good one. I can go ahead and give us that a little bit higher. There we go. So it kind of leaves us with two choices. We can either try to grab a fiend that's passing by, grab him and pull him in, and hope that that goes well for us. Or we can just try to break into the storehouse. Storehouse probably has an office in it, which might a file clerk area where they keep records, which may exist, may not exist. Who knows how well they're being kept up when in an abandoned place that's overrun by fiends. But Reed is certainly interested in that. So, the question is, I'm going to go down the list with each of our people here and try to suss out what I think they would feel about our two options. So, Lagawardos Gertrude, our lore keeper. She knows enough about fiends. I think she's probably, and as the only person in this group who can cast any magic, knows that it's unlikely that she has a way to talk to these. She knows her own language in Druidic, so I guess technically, do lizard folk? They get draconic? I can't even remember. Look. It helps if I can spell. Get lizard. Yeah, they speak draconic. Okay. So I'm going to add draconic to our list because it wasn't in there. I probably just screwed that up. So she knows that she can't speak to him, and she thinks she doesn't have any spell that allows them to do that. And she doesn't have any tricks up her sleeve that would be particularly helpful here. We can also take a look at our inventory to see if there's something that would help us, our group inventory. Here with our mules, with Apollonia and Rudolph, our two donkeys. Fishing tackle, probably not going to help us. Our heraldry banner, also not going to help us. Carpenter tools, mattock, ration, shovel, none of this stuff's going to be helpful for us. So, nothing there. So her thing is like, well, we could grab one of these things, but it's not going to do us any good. So she explains that to the group. So Cristoff feels probably pretty confident that he can probably overtake one of these creatures if we get like a low level one or a pretty weak one that he can jump, pounce upon. He can probably subdue it, simply like he did with the the person outside the stables, the bandit outside the stables, where he just punched him in the face with the pommel of his sword and knocked him out. So he's like, I think I could probably do it. Especially with that Mythalar bracelet that allows him to get advantage on athletics checks for a minute. Which I would use to be like, that feels like a very subdual thing, like wrestling kind of athletic kind of thing. I would give that to him. But also, he speaks the common language, which is roughly Germanic, Elvish, which is not going to help him here. And he also speaks the southerner tongue, which in this case is more of a Slavic kind of tongue. So he speaks those two because he's from the southern border areas. Spent a bunch of time down there. Reed speaks common and essentially Halfer. Doesn't really give him anything. He has calligraphy supplies. He's not going to have... Yeah, he doesn't have any way to talk to him either. So he knows that after they take, like, honestly, maybe 2 minutes discussing that and be like, to try to subdue one. And then everybody goes, oh, and then what? We can't talk to this thing. It might cry out for help. It might do all sorts of things. Would it be helpful to kill one of these creatures and at least figure out what they are and how difficult they are to fight before we go busting into the storehouse? That probably a little bit more reasonable, but again, if they don't down it kind of in the round, there's a likelihood that it's going to set off an alarm. So we've been pretty sneaky thus far, so maybe we just continue. I think that's what they're going to do. So they're going to follow the same progress they were going to do. Can they tell from the outside? This sounds like a perception check, which seems like, given what we're looking for, I think that's a Cristoff check. And if he didn't have advantage, I would say that Reed would give him advantage, and Gertrude could probably give him advantage. Because the place that she's from, it is kind of like a big storehouse, in a way. As to try to figure out where the office might be situated, if they could tell visually on the outside. Well, he doesn't get to add much to that, so... a 10 is a success, but it's not much of a success. Only a 13. So, it's a success. Now it's just, can they determine that, yes or no? They're like, it's a 4-sided building. Could be here. This area that we're looking at could be, I think it's probably one of the, like a storehouse where, kind of like a Viking long haul, where the doors aren't at the far ends, they're kind of in the middle of the building. So it's like, we're just going to kind of walk into the middle of the building. The office is probably at one of the ends, but the doorway's in the middle. Now, question is, do they have like ventilation, like hayloft access on a side they can see? Probably. Yes. Okay. So they can maybe climb up and see if there's like a loft area, like a second floor that maybe they could get into. And they kind of look around and be like, not a terrible idea. But it would leave us out in the open. So, Self's thinking as he's looking out the doorway, kind of peeking around the doorway. Kind of peeks back. There's a winch. I'm just going to assume there is no rope there, because this place has not been active clearly for weeks, because people have been dead for some weeks at this point. So we have rope. We could toss a rope over. Actually, do we have rope? That's actually a very good question. Yes. Okay, Cristoff has rope right there. Okay, good. I'll go full screen. Character sheets. I'm looking at the character sheets. He has rope right there on it. Okay, so he's got rope. Okay, so we can toss the rope over and hoist somebody up there pretty easily. Get in there and take a look. That'll be a problem. Problem is that to do that, anybody who's holding the rope and doing that stuff, we're going to be sending ducks out in the open. So, how everybody feel about that? I think they kind of look around at each other and they're like, if the only other option is going in through the front door into a giant room that might have who knows how many fiends inside, or we try to sneak our way into the hayloft where there's probably not any, we can have at least an idea of what's happening on the inside before we go charging in. That's probably the better bet, even though we know there's patrolling ones around. So I think everybody's kind of like, okay. They sit down and they're going to make a quick plan. So while they make a quick plan, we're going to roll random encounter check. We missed it by 1. We roll a 1, there's a random encounter, but we didn't roll a 1. They make a plan. They're like, all right, we're gonna wait for the patrol to go by. Once the patrol goes by, we'll rush out there as quietly as we can. We're gonna throw the rope over, and they're gonna already have it like tied and set so it can go on. I assume Cristoff, because Cristoff has the best side of it, everybody. Even though Reed's just as good, almost as good as a climber as he is. But Cristoff is going to have the better athletics just because he's trained in it and he has the Mythalar bracelet, which gives him the ability, if he really needs to, as that consumable thing that he can bust one to get advantage on athletics checks if he needs it, which would be any sort of climbing. Or who knows what. So that sounds like that's the plan. They're going to go in there. Is the plan then... Once he's up there, to see if they can tie the rope off to something and then find a spot to hide. I assume that sounds like a likely plan than just having to... I assume they can see something out there, whether there's a cart sitting out there or nearby bushes or something that they can... crates or something that they can kind of obscure themselves and hide behind. I'm going to say that's probably a given. They just need to be able to tie this thing off, which there's probably something they can weight it down with. I don't think that will also be a problem. This is kind of like a hayloft winch situation, so there should be something to tie that rope off to already. Some sort of cleat or something, probably on the side of the building. That's the plan. So, patrol goes by, rounds the corner of the storehouse, starts heading in a different direction. Round, no visual acuity. They all make a break for that area. Run over there. All right. They've got the rope. They're going to toss this rope over it. That feels like an athletics check. Tell you what, we're going to do initiative because I feel like I have to do initiative. And then at the end of each round, we're going to make that random encounter check to see like when the next people pass by. Let's change our music. So we're going to have the group rushes out to voice Cristoff into storehouses. Hayloft. I'm calling it a hayloft. It's probably just a second floor area. Kind of like the front of like a Dutch warehouse kind of situation where there's just a yard arm that's sticking out with a winch on it. Now we're not going to use the winch. We're just throwing it over the truss and just trying to over the spar and doing our best. Pull him up. All right. So we're going to roll initiative. See who gets to go when, I guess. And you know what? I'll let them choose. It doesn't matter that much. So I think Cristoff has the best athletics, so he's going to be the thrower. We're going to have Reed, who's probably the best at helping, and then Gertrude is... Gertrude's just going to do her best. This isn't really her thing. I don't think she has a particularly good... And her strength is just as good as Reed's. And then we'll have at the bottom... random encounter check. Perfect. So, everybody rushes out. Cristoff takes the rope. I said they already tied the thing, then he's going to be able to, like, loop it through his belt or however they're attaching it to him, or have the, like, rope harness set up where he can step into and pull him up. Whatever way they're doing it, whether we're doing it realistically or just, like, the old fantasy way where you just loop it through your belt and go with it. Doesn't really matter. They have plenty of time to prepare for this. So, Cristoff's going to make a throw. There's no reason to move us from our scene DC of 10. I feel like we're still pretty much in the same scene. Until, once we get inside and start doing stuff, that'll probably be a different scene. Once this kind of comes to a conclusion. So, Cristoff's going to make... We'll throw... I said we're going to... Let's change our music. Clear our biome. We don't need to be in that. We'll go with civilization. Camps and outposts kind of seems like the right spot. Or ruins and pillaged. I would take either one of those. Let's see what we get in here. Tyler, lost contact, lots of modern stuff. We do that and our mood. You know what? This might be better. Let's go with mood. attention. I feel like this is a very much attention situation. Let's say Haboob, village raid, or news from the front. Right now, I'm liking ready the castle. I think maybe that makes sense. What do you guys think? So, hidden passage might be a good one. Hey, we got a halfling and they're sneaking. Why not use halfling sneak? That's a good sound for us. Oop. Infiltration. Why not? Okay. Cristoff's going to make an athletics check. Can't really help somebody throw a rope. It's just kind of a one-person thing, so easily done. Flies over the mast. Comes down. Grabs it. Steps into the harness. All right. Pull me up. And the other two are going to heave-ho. Doesn't really matter who's going to do it. They're going to get the help action. Well, we'll do it this way. So Reed's going first, so let's swap that. We're going to swap it. So Gertrude's going to go before Reed. And she's not going to be successful. She'll use her bonus action to give Reed the help action. So she grabs it and tries to give him a gift, and Cristoff gets up off the ground, then almost slams in the building and kind of has to try to like pound himself so he doesn't like slam, make a whole bunch of noise against it. Okay, perfect. So she's going to give the help action to Reed, who will then roll with advantage and also fail. Right, I don't think he gets anything. Yeah, he just gets the +1 for strength. Does he get to re-roll the 1 because he's... You know, I don't play enough halfling. That's what I'm finding out, is that because you get the lucky thing where you get to re-roll a 1 on a d20 test. Does that count as when you have advantage too? Why not? Sure. We're going to re-roll that 1. All right, so with her help, he nearly does it again, then kind of digs in his heels. Starts pulling, and the two of them pull Cristoff up, and he kind of hops into the hayloft up there, and the rope kind of goes slack. And they find a place. You know what? I'm not sure. I feel like cleating a rope is a little bit more advanced than item interaction, because that's a thing that takes a second. Like, wind around and do it and make sure it's secure. So I don't think that they have it. So they're stuck out. They're still holding it, holding everything when the end of the round comes. You knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. Of course, we're going to have the random encounter right now happening. Okay. Perfect. We knew it was going to happen. Here it goes. So we're going to switch these two. Because I did say that Reed and Gertrude. We're going to switch. Okay, she failed. Oops. Because I knew if she failed, she'd be able to give her bonus action on her turn, because you still have it. So we have a random encounter check, and we fail. So there is a random encounter. So my question is it something that happens on the inside, or is it something that happens on the outside? So we know that there are people are on the outside. We don't know about the inside. So I'm just going to roll 50-50. If we roll high, it's going to be on the outside. If it's low, it's going to be something that Cristoff deals with once he swings in through that hayloft window. And is technically low. All right, so let's let's get everybody situated here. So let's come up with an encounter. Oopsie poopsie, here we go, guys. All right, so we're gonna run over to Kobold Fight Club real quick, and we're gonna have 3 players at first level. We're gonna look for some filters here. We're gonna go down to our creature type, and we're gonna knock this back over to Fiends. And generate a little encounter for us. Now we want something low. There aren't a ton. I think for this one, let's just go with like some kind of meteor creatures. Thinking maybe something. I'm not sure if I want to do a solo. You know what? Let's roll 1d6. All right. So actually, there's gonna be quite a few enemies, so we're gonna have to use something pretty low level. In fact, we're probably gonna have to use. I have to use a Lumiere. Get something that's close to. Yeah, this is right. We're clearly using the 2024. I always use the 2014 rules because that many demons will get my characters killed. Because they were like 13 demons versus your 3 characters. Obviously, that's a trivial encounter. And use the old ones. It's like, nope, that's a deadly encounter. You're right, it is a deadly. So like I said, I don't really ever want to do more than kind of like 2 times what they are, but probably we could bump that up. We could go to mains or manes. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do like a 1d4 plus 1. 2 plus 1. All right, so there's gonna be 3 of these little guys. Who is a creature that I have not looked at in a minute, so look at them. They're just real nice looking dudes. But they're small fiends, even though they look like people. Look like they should be people size. They are small fiends. So there are 3 of them hanging out up there. They have a -1, so they're going to be going. I like to use that standard take 10 initiative for my monsters just to make it nice and easy. And we'll drop them in Hermanes, and they're going to go on 09, and what they got? They're like hit points and stuff. AC 9, HP 9. That's pretty, and initiative 9. 9's all around, easy to keep track of. Okay. AC 9, and there is 1, 2, 3. And then we'll roll initiative for our friends. And you suggest an NPC for the party. You can always suggest an NPC for the party, whether I'll use them or not. They would have to find this person out in the wild. But sure, go ahead, throw it at me. Give me an idea. I mean, they could probably use somebody who could cast spells, honestly. But that might change with Reed. All right. Well, we're just gonna go down the line. So that's not great for Reed. So he gets a hot 4, and Gertrude's gonna get a 1 plus something, +1, I think, or +0. Yeah. Okay. So everybody's down at the bottom except for Cristoff, who is gonna be able to go first. That goes just about as well as I imagined it would. And then we'll swap these guys. Gertrude. All right. Well, now we got to do combat music. Ugh. Chase and escape. This is like a skirmish and brawl. What feels good here? Prisoner transport. Like the beacons. Pagan wood. Ship the line. Why not? I mean, you gotta use demon army, right? When you're fighting fiends. Play it. Play it, Steve. Oh, a merfolk cleric to help them with healing. They're pretty far away from the sea. The merfolk would be interesting. So you could technically have freshwater merfolk, I suppose. A little bit more like a water nymph kind of situation. Very interesting. A cleric to help them with the healing. Any sort of spellcaster would be helpful for them. Anything. Based on trying, yeah. I would probably be opposed to that simply because I play in another campaign that is heavily maritime and have done so much stuff with merfolk and tridents that it's kind of like you eat the same meal every day and you get tired of eating that meal. So, but I'll keep it in mind. Keep it in mind. I know when they might come across that. Definitely somebody they could recruit though, if they happen across some merfolk. And there's always a chance. There are definitely some aquatic people around Green Lake, so stands to reason that there are probably some here as well. The overflow area. All right, so Cristoff swings in there. He sees 3 of these guys, ugly-looking little dudes. Let's get a better look at them. I can get a better image of. Yeah, there's a good one. But they're small, surprisingly. Oh, there we go. The D&D aesthetic over the year. That's always a fun integration. So you see that they kind of consolidated around 3rd edition. Pretty much stayed the same. But they're small. Oh, ugly little critters. It's his turn, so he's gonna pull out his sword, grab his shield. I guess item interaction was going to be his shield. So technically, because of that, I'm going to say that he still has his harness on. So in case he gets kicked out of this place, which could always happen. Probably not, though. These creatures are small. And he's going to swing down on these guys. On this first one in front of him. Alright, let's do it. No advantage, nothing going. Come on, Cristoff. 13. 13 on the die is going to hit. He's using this one-handed 1d8 plus 2. 8 points of damage, not quite enough to kill this thing. But he does slash through this thing heavily, nearly bifurcates it, nearly splits it in half. Like, part of it's really just kind of like hanging off. Turns around, looks at him. He's like, oh, well, I'm going to use his second attack on him. And whiff. So that's a big miss on Cristoff, unfortunately. Okie doke. Well, there we go. So he's going to hit one. And one of these guys is going to be down to 1 hit point. Now, because we're not fighting constructs anymore, there is a chance they might run. Speaking of the monies, it is their turn. Money, money, money. Alright. There is 3 of them. What do they do? They're basic low-level things. They're going to do slashing attacks. We are lucky. They speak. They understand Abyssal, but cannot speak, so thus cannot call for their friend. Couldn't have been better if I had even tried to make that happen, which I certainly didn't. Alright, so we got 3 of them. They're going to come in here and attack. They are pretty dumb. Intelligence is like less than animal intelligence. So they're like, they're barely better than zombies. They're just going to rush in and go for an attack. Plus 2, 2d4 if they hit. They don't get anything special for this attack. Just 3d20s. Trying to hit 18. I don't think... What's their bonus? Plus 2. None of them hit. So they all clamber around at Cristoff, kind of like striking, trying to grab at his legs. Because that's how tall they are. Trying to scratch at him with their nasty, like, long fingernails, broken fingernail claws. Oh, trying to cut at him. Oh, get away from me. Push them away with the shield. Alright, that is their turn. So, down on the ground. What do we got happening? Certainly, I'm going to assume that they can hear a little bit of a scuffle happening. I definitely heard a weapon being drawn. Well, maybe. We'll give each of them a perception check. I mean, he was up in a hayloft. Yep. Okay, so they both are like, oh no, now there's combat happening. We said Gertrude was going first. She's going to go tie off the cleat. She's going to go tie off the rope. And she's going to use her actual action to look around to see if there is... Do you want to do that? I don't know. Yeah, because she's not going to be able to see inside, so she can either look for somebody out here, or she can try to climb the rope. I think she's going to try to hide. That is what she's going to do. She's going to hide pretty well, so she kind of finds some crates and dives behind them before this patrol comes back around. And we're still going to do the same thing. So at the end of the round, as long as they keep doing this while combat's happening, there's still a chance that that next group of people on the outside might show up. But that's going to give her What? Oh, she is trained in stealth. That's right. I keep forgetting that. So she gets +2 to that. So 17. We'll go ahead and throw that down there. Oh, right. I forgot. Technically, Reed's going first. Reed also saw that he also can't really do anything from the ground, but he will pull out his bow and arrow. I'm pretty sure, so I'll check. Can he get a line of sight on one of these creatures? I think that's extremely unlikely, so -5. Nope, can't see into there at all from his angle. Such a low roll, because it's -5 to that, so it's actually a -3. So it's no and can't see at all into there. Too dark, or whatever. Or the angle's just so steep, or Cristoff is far enough inside that you can't really see it. He's like, shit. Alright, so he's gonna grab his bow, get that ready, and he's gonna follow Gertrude and also try to hide. Luckily, he gets to re-roll those ones. Ooh. Thank goodness that we got an extra 2 to that check. So not doing a good job, Reed is trying to hide. That'll be a spicy 4 on the die. Good. Good. Stealth 04. So he knows he's not hidden well, too, is the thing. Alright, that's going to put us back at the top with Cristoff. Cristoff is still in there. He's still got these creatures. We didn't roll for one's morale. We'll do that when we get. No need to roll for it. Now, he'll make an attack against that one that's hurt. All he has to do is hit it, and it's going to go down. He will hit it. It will go down. The second one is he turns and cleaves into that one. Easily going to hit. And he's going to deal, I believe, 7 points. So this one's still up, but desperately hurt. As he cuts down another one. Or cuts down the first one. Speaking of which, it is the Mane's turn. That one that is hurt is going to make himself a little charisma morale check. You know what? That's pretty low, but I'm going to guess their charisma's even lower. Yeah, the charisma is a 4. So the way that I do morale checks is I do a roll under system. If you've played any sort of OSR thing, you're probably familiar with a roll under stat check. I roll a d20, and if I hit their score, their charisma score, or lower, they stay in the fight. This charisma score is 4. 7 is higher than that. This one does a runner. But the other one's still in the fight. This one's going to try to run. It's real dumb, though. So we'll just ask. Does it disengage 50-50? It does. Okay, so it disengages and runs away. It's starting to run away. Disappearing. So I assume once we get into here and we actually get into the storehouse itself, it's pretty easy to see that this is like a second floor kind of loft area, attic kind of area, where there's probably a bunch of barrels and crates and all kinds of stuff up here. It's like I'm thinking now, I'm always going to come back to this because the most recent game that I played with something like this was Kingdom Come Deliverance, where you go into places like the workshop at the Abbey and like the second floor, like they got a whole bunch of like storage, and it's really just kind of like an attic loft area. You have like a whole snaking rows of like crates and barrels and all kinds of stuff that's in there. It's just for storage. I think that's what's happening here. So he's the little creatures starting to dive behind these barrels and crates as it weaves its way through and somewhat out of sight, leaving the last one there, who is going to give us a little tickety-a-tackety. And it's going to miss, like, flails at Cristoff pretty easily. Which is going to bring us down to our friends here. Oh, you know what? I forgot to roll for... That was stupid. Did that now. Okay, good. Down at the bottom, so... Reed's, like, not hidden very well. I think he knows he's not hidden very well. I think Gertrude's kind of looking at him like... I'd better. And he's going to try to re-hide. technically doing worse. He's doing a worse job now. So he's gone from a 4 to 3. Is this better? He's standing out in the open. Eh? This better? All right, well, you know. So it still gets from a 4 to a 3. And Gertrude's like, get behind anything. Again, she can't really see anything that's going on down here. We're gonna have to roll for a random encounter. I think she's just kind of whispers, either hide or go there. Standing in the middle of the open. She feels pretty good about her hiding spot, so I think she's going to stay where she is. All right. That's time to roll for a new random encounter, because we really only have one person engaged in combat right now. Okay, another round goes by, and no more attackers come. That's up at the top. That's Cristoff. He's going to make 2 attacks against this creature, or at least probably 1, and then he'd go attack the other creature. He can get to it. 17 certainly is going to hit. And he's going to get 5 points of damage. Then the second hit's going to go in, and he will do another 5 points of damage. So he will kill the one that's still engaged with him. So this one is down. At which point Cristoff is going to use his item interaction to step out of like the rope harness he still has on him, and is going to move towards the creature that's running away from the monies that's running away from him. He can easily catch up with that one because they've got a speed of 20, and he has a speed of 30. Easily can catch up to them. So it is their turn. They're already actively in the thing of fling, and now the question is, do they try to disengage again? No. So they're going to try to dash. Since the disengage didn't get them away from this creature, it's going to try to dash, which is going to proc Cristoff's ability to make an opportunity attack, which he will do right now to see if he can end this right now. Sails right over it. It's a miss. And this creature will... But because it dashed, it moves 40. Means that Cristoff will have to do more than a move to get next to it. He'll have to either dash himself or try to shoot it with a bow and arrow or something. But this thing's going to move 40 feet away. Again, can't talk, so can't really call for help or anything like that. As far as we know, I don't believe they have any telepathy or anything like that, do they? Nope, they sure don't. They are super low-level fiends. So they can speak Abyssal. They understand Abyssal but cannot speak it. They can only do that. They're slow. And they only have 20-foot movement. Yep, that's pretty much it. They are super, super basic enemies. They're really, really basic. After this, if he moves again, we'll have to check to see if he starts seeing anybody else. They start encountering other people as they start to move further and further into the storehouse. But for now, deal with the rest of the group. So the Mayonnaise moves away. Reed's standing there. He's tried to stealth a couple of times. Like he's looking at Gertrude, who has like the one good hiding spot. Like when you're playing a kid playing. Like, find your own hiding spot. Don't wait for me. My spot. Find your own. And I think he's gonna see if he can climb into the hayloft. He's gonna go grab the rope and see if he can ascend the rope. So athletics check. He gets advantage on it because that's how climbing works with ropes. Eight plus 1 would in fact be a 9, which does not beat our DC of 10. So one of the things that I was reading in another TTRPG, I believe it's in Dolmenwood, that I really liked is that assuming that when somebody fails a climb check, they always fall from halfway up whatever they're trying to climb. So this is a second story, so I'm gonna say that that's like a 2d6 fall. It's like would be 2 or 3 stories, like so 20 or 30 feet up. So half of that you always round down, so he'll take a d6 of falling damage as he tries to pull himself up that rope and then falls. Ow! That's 5 points of damage as he smacks into the ground. As he falls on the ground, failing to climb up this rope and slips and falls. And I mean, he's a soft boy. This is not really his thing, despite having a +1 strength. So Reed is currently prone on the ground. You know what? I'd say he probably... You know what? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll just roll a luck check. If I roll high, I don't. He's prone. I was gonna say, if I roll high enough, he's got enough movement left to stand up, but he doesn't. He's prone. Like Gertrude, again, is like... but you have to touch somebody, give them guidance, and she doesn't really want to break her stealth. So she's just going to ready an action in case some attacker comes in. She sees somebody come, a fiend approach that she, and see, you know, enter combat, essentially. If there is a fiend that comes and enters combat, she will take a ready attack on it. Brings us down to the bottom. It's time to roll for a random encounter. There it was. We knew it. I was like, I'm going to prepare for this because I know I'm going to roll a 1 this time. I just know I'm going to roll a 1 this time. And hey, what do you know? We do. So somebody's going to enter. I assume that this is going to be from the outside. I think that's highly likely. Sure is. Now the question is, so that's a yes and. Yes and maybe this is the person who's in charge? Is that true? I don't know why I'm rolling that. I can decide whether that's true or not. Yes, I think this is an APL 01 site, so I think that the leader kind of comes into view, which I think is probably going to be a CR1 kind of creature. So let's take a look in a book. Reading Rainbow. Let's open a new tabby for us. And let's go to back to Kobold Fight Club. And we still have all our filters active. Let's look for a good CR1. We could have this imp or a maw demon or quasit. Vargul would be really cool. I love those monsters. And I have definitely played in campaigns or run campaigns where they are a major threat. They're a very fun character. They're an old school D&D character. It doesn't get used up very often. But I don't think I'm going to use them here. So I can't remember too much about maw demons. What do maw demons like? Oh, just go to the block. How about that? Oh yeah, that's nasty looking dudes. But they're also really dumb. So maybe an imp? Hello? Yeah, this looks like the kind of guy who might be in charge of some stuff like this. Because they got a little bit of like shape-shifting and spidery stuff. So it's like this one very low-level creature, but in charge of these other things that are barely sentient. So I think we'll go with the imp. I don't think we can get 2 imps in the stat block. Yeah, that'll be deadly. We could also throw something. But sort. How about a lemure? Also deadly. Alright, so imp it is. Or a Nuperito. Like, if that makes maybe more sense as a leader. Wisdom, they're also really dumb. So I think just on the basis of being able to be kind of smart, the imp's in charge here. Flying around the corner. Start speaking, but in a language they can't understand, but though it can speak common. Flies around and takes a look. Then immediately sees Reed laying on the ground, doing his best Peter Griffin impersonation at the bottom of the stairs. Like, hey. Looking at him and be like, I don't remember that body being there. That twisted, mangled body being there. Oh no, it's groaning. It must be alive. That's unfortunate for it. Unfortunate. And then Gertrude is going to take her shot at it. So this thing will enter its initiative at 13. 13, 13, 21. Okay, got it. So it's going to enter at 13. AC 13. HP 21. Right? I did that right. 21 seems like a lot of HP for Era 1 Imp. But hey, I don't make the rules. The official rules. I make other rules. Alright. But that means that Gertrude's thing's going to go off immediately. So her ready to action is going to go off as she sees this creature come in. So she's going to fully lose her stealth. But I can't imagine this thing's passive perception is 11. So I'm going to give her advantage on that because they don't know she's attacking from stealth. I will take that. 11 plus, that's a 16. I don't think that hits, does it? I think that hits. Oh, no, it does. Okay, nice. Ooh, and it's radiant damage too because she's doing her radiant damage blast. Ooh, for 10 big points of radiant damage. Are these things weak to radiant damage? No, they're not vulnerable. Interesting. Has advantage on saving throws, but not the damage. Got it. So it gets immediately blasted with this radiant light. Hey, what's the corpse doing? Hey, that's not a corpse. This gets blasted with radiant light from Gertrude. And we'll take 10 points of radiant damage. Ouchie, ouchie. So it'll be down to 11, 21. Not quite to half, though. So still going to be in the fight, regardless. And then it enters top of the turn. Which will be Cristoff. Cristoff can chase that thing. Did he hear anything outside? Give him a little perception check. I'm going to give him disadvantage because he's moved away from the opening. Not with the natural one. He doesn't hear anything. So he's chasing down the one in front of him. Like, I can keep chasing this thing. Or I could try to shoot it with a bow. Because I think he knows that he doesn't want to move too far away from the person ostensibly he's supposed to be bodyguarding. He just doesn't know anything's happening to them outside. So I think he drops his shield and puts his sword back in its scabbard and unlimbers his short bow, and he's going to take 2 short bow attacks at this creature. Move through. Even with cover, both of those are going to hit. It's not even going to matter. 2d6. Can't imagine. I guess it's important to know to see if I kill it on the first shot, which is likely. I think that's actually pretty likely I'm going to kill it on this first shot. Yeah, I sure do. So I'm going to save that second shot. As Cristoff will move back. Remember, he only moved 20, so he moves back over to the opening to like look down, trying to assess the situation, see if the others want to come up. And as he does, he sees that, hey, there's another fight going on down there. So from his angle, question, can he see Imp? He cannot. So he can see that they're fighting something, and he like can't get a look on it. Like too close to the side of the building where he can't get it within the range, so he can't shoot it. So instead, he uses that action to attack, so he's just going to lose that extra attack. And he can't do anything with the bonus action to do that. he will put himself into, let's say, cover. So he's going to back up against this thing. Totally put his back to the wall of the storehouse so he's fully hidden from sight. So he's going to give total cover because he's going to be like, I'm not even going to look out there. Because he has no idea what they're fighting. So he's going to put his back there. I guess the appropriate term is full cover. And thus it's the end, who just got blasted with a whole bunch of divine radiant energy. Goes, turns and looks at Gertrude. Now, what's this guy gonna do? He's got some stuff. He can go invisible. Good for him. And that's a thing he can just do all the time. He can shapeshift. Not particularly useful for him at this point. So it really just does the sting and can turn invisible. So it turns around and looks at Gertrude and disappears into nothingness. And we'll move. I'm going to roll a d6. If I roll a 1 or 2, it's going after Reed, but more likely it will be going after Gertrude. Yeah, what do I know? Going after Reed. So this thing moves up to Reed, but can't do anything. Except hover next to him right now. So our imp is invisible. Harmonies are gone at this point. And this, I'm going to keep rolling for random encounters because now stuff's going into the mix. Now this creature hasn't called out for anybody because it thinks it's just a one-person fight that's kind of in, so it doesn't really need backup. I think it thinks at this point it still kind of has this idea that it's, well, you know what? I should roll for. That's true. It is fighting by itself, and it is outpaced. No, we'll wait till next turn. It can take some more damage though. But it turns invisible, but moves into an area where Cristoff could shoot it with a bow, but can't see it. And has already broken line of sight anyway, so he has no idea where it is. That's the imp. Reed is prone. Well, Reed immediately stands up. We're going to give Reed a perception check. And notice this thing is here. He, of course, gets that at disadvantage. We'll just go against their passive stealth. This thing trained to stealth, so that for sure does not work. Oh, well, technically, the 7 won't work. I don't need to re-roll the 1. He looks around and be like, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Gertrude's also kind of like looking around. Since Reed didn't know where this thing is going, and also doesn't see Cristoff, who's hiding. So there's a chance he tries to climb the rope again. But there's also a chance that he tries and finds cover. I think that's a 50-50 shot. So high, he's going to try to climb the rope. No. Okay. So he's going to move and look for some cover. Stealth. His stealth is as good as it's been. Technically better than it's been. So that's, what is that now? That's a 5, 6? 5. A nice 5. As he moves away, does this thing attack him? Question mark? Yes. So this thing will strike at him with his tail. But still not roll really well. I think that might even miss him. Does that actually miss him? No, not with a +5 to hit attack. 13 AC? Yeah. Reed's got a hot 11 AC. Not in front. The halfling goes, alright. Find a place to hide. As he goes around, he feels this, right in between the shoulder blades, this sharp pierce as the stinger from the imp goes into it. That scorpion-like tail hits into the middle of him. And we'll do a d6 plus 3 of piercing damage. So our boy's for sure going down. This is not good. So 7 points. So reduced to 0. Well, technically, I need to count it because it could fully kill him. Hmm. So that's 7 plus 5, which is 12. So... Man, I'm struggling with my math right now. I'm thinking. Okay. Well, the calculator. Oh, no. That's enough. That puts us at... That's -9 hit points. So... That means that our boy is gonna auto die. By 2 hit points. He's gonna go down unless we have some shenanigans. I don't think we have any shenanigans. I don't think anybody's got anything. We didn't hold any actions to do anything, which would have been smart. Something else. I don't think we got anything for this. I think Reed, the light in Reed is extinguished. Yeah, we don't have any shenanigans. Reed's down. He's down, ladies and gentlemen. He's down and out. Because that took him to -9 hit points, which is his max again negative in that one attack. He goes down. Reed hits the ground and does not move. Does not stir, is not breathing. As the poison moving through his veins flows with his blood as his heart stops pumping. And he passes, luffs off this mortal coil. But we're still in the middle of stuff. Which means that Reed is DEAD, he is dead. Means now it's Gertrude's turn. This thing, she can see it. She saw it take down Reed. He smashed, hit the ground. She's gonna unleash some more radiant light at this thing. 17 on the die. Minimum 2 damage. And she smashes this imp. For 2 points of damage. It'll go down to 09. Imp chortles with laughter. Yeah, he died without the class. Ain't nothing going for him. Alright, roll for our random encounter. It can only get worse, folks. No random encounter. Alright, that takes us back up to the top with Cristoff, who's gonna look around the corner, see Reed dead on the ground, not stirring at all, but looking directly down at this imp, and is gonna shoot a couple of arrows into him. Both which will hit. Alright, that's 12 points of damage. That just kills the imp. Thump, thump. Arrows into its back, and it is no more. It's Cristoff in the hayloft. Puts him down. Alright, well, that will end combat for us for a moment. So, demon army over. Go for our mood. We'll go with reflective and somber. Why not? Sure, let's go with Dark Angel. Why not? How edgy is this? Maybe a little too edgy. Yeah, it's a little bit. Go with that. So, Reed goes down. The group's there. They look around. Well, I had something that the creature could have done maybe when it was on his turn, but hey, he did too. Gertrude runs over to him on her, and Cristoff grabs the rope and kind of fireman slips down and gets down, drops down on the ground next to him. Gertrude rolls him over on his back, checks his eyes. They don't move. They're not dilating. They're not responding. No breathing. No pulse. He is still. He looks up and looks at. Laughing, shakes her head. Stuff kind of like leans back on his heels, squatting down. Shit, what do we do? Gertrude kind of seems lost in the moment. Are there more these creatures here? Maybe we should. Maybe you're right. Grabs the blanket out and they wrap up body and throw him over the shoulder and start moving. They're gonna move back kind of out of the area, back towards where the donkeys are, and take stock of the situation. Let's roll real quick, just for Cristoff. He shot some arrows. His arrow supply, it's fine. What do we do? At this point, we can't even go back. You know, if we go back, they're gonna kill us for kid. I know. What? We're just stuck out here forever? Is there anything we can do? Anything you know how to do? Not unless there's something in the storehouse. Okay, we check the storehouse then. All right, maybe what even helps at this point? Could be a scroll of something. Get him to some sort of powerful place or Druid's enclave or something would help, but every moment that goes by is tether between this body and his soul weaken the fast. Okay, yeah. Shit. All right, you stay here. I'm gonna go check the storehouse, see if there are any more in it. So he slings his stuff on his back, and Cristoff takes off. Again, he we'll figure out if we need to make a stealth check in a second. Question is, are there any demons left? Are there any fiends left? Could be, could be not. I think that's 50-50. No. After a cursory inspection, it seems like they have taken care of all the ones that were here. So there were a few here, and that was definitely a difficult fight with the imp. We'll take a look at the imp. Does the imp have anything on it? So we'll roll that. And I don't know if he's important. Thinking about rolling. So he'll come back and get Gertrude and be like, okay, I don't think there's anybody here. I think we can go. And so they're going to immediately go into the storehouse and see if they can find any sort of like high value goods. Anything that might be locked up, anything that might prove that it's super useful. There might be something in the bunkhouse. So I think they split up. I think Gertrude kind of gives them the idea we're looking for scrolls or potions or anything that's things like it might be magical, any sort of like rods or wands, or she kind of like gives them the battery of lists or any sort of like consumable items, anything like that. So just start looking, and we're going to look as fast as we can. And they set out and they begin to tear this place apart, looking for anything that would be useful. And at least his arrow supply is fine. Gertrude, new NPC. Gertrude could be our NPC, maybe. She doesn't have the greatest stats in the world, but could be our new PC. We'll see. We might find something else. Death is not always the end, though. There might be a way out of here. we're gonna give him some ability to try to do some shenanigans here. Because adventuring's a dangerous area. We're in an area that has a storehouse, which means there's supplies here. So there's always a chance that there might be some sort of scroll or some sort of spell or something that might help them with this. There's always a chance there might be one here. So they start tearing this place apart. So where do we roll for that? What are we gonna roll for this? Let's update our notes. So this is gonna be our new scene. We'll call it Reed's death. And we'll set a DC here. Hopefully we do not roll high. How that goes. Right, it's a DC 16. So it's quite high. After Reed falls in combat, start to search the area for any helpful items or, at this point, just information. We'll go with Cristoff, who's going to go look at the bunkhouse, I think, and Gertrude, who's going to try to find any sort of lockup or area within the storehouse itself that might have something important. Which would include probably looking for areas where the imp was kind of making their home station at. So they begin to tear this place apart. Cristoff is going to do a little search. I'm going to say stuff. Normally I'd say this is an investigation check, but we're in dire straits, so I'm going to let him do a perception check because he is also trying to move quickly. He doesn't, in character, Cristoff doesn't know how like D&D time works with like corpses and resurrection and that kind of stuff. He has no idea how that works. So he's just running as fast as he can, looking around. We'll give him a little perception check. All right, 13 plus 3, 16. So he does actually make this DC. So he finds something. So he's going to start moving stuff around in here, which could be incredibly dangerous. Let's see what he finds. And I'm trying to think of, do I want to roll something that's like on the prompt table, or do I just want to do like full on just look for loot? Start rolling for random loot. I'm going to say, let's do the prompt table first. And then if we don't get something that makes a ton of sense, we're just going to start looking for random stuff. 13 and 21. Illuminate. Illuminate's good. Illuminate family. What does it have to do with Reed's family? He learned something about Reed's family. Technically, we do not necessarily know the location of his mother. His mother might have agent or something up here. That could be it. I'm trying to figure out how that might interplay. Illuminate something about, he is just a standard maybe he finds like a journal or something that's in here because he's in the bunkhouse. Maybe he finds a journal, somebody's diary, and maybe it alludes to something about these rituals, perhaps? Question mark? Yeah. So its journal kind of talks about, maybe this is somebody who, they probably didn't do all the rituals at one time, so there were probably people locked in here that couldn't do anything. you know, just kind of waiting their turn for whatever horrible end happened to them here, whichever one people it is. And in that, does it tell us? Maybe it tells us something specifically. Does it tell us something specifically about the state of people who are killed by fiends in this way, or in the way? Yes. Yeah, let's go with that. I like that. So the idea being that he starts flipping through this. I don't think he's probably going to I have an idea for this, strong idea that this could be super helpful for them. I don't think he's going to have the Arcana training for this. Certainly isn't going to roll high enough, but he notices that like something in this journal feels like it could be relevant and important, but it starts getting into like metaphysical talk, and he's like, this stuff's like way above, like flies over my head. So this is for Gertrude. And then he's just going to do kind of rinse this place pretty closely. And let's see, let's give him like, I don't know, like a D4 plus 1, just like loot he's going to pick up. As he was just like pushing stuff around and trying to find things. Yeah, try to give him a safety net a little bit. Try to give him some way to potentially come back. There are a few things that we could do. Got one real good strong one. Solves a lot of our problems. All right. So 4. They're in the bunkhouse. I think this is worth rolling on the. No, I was gonna say you could roll on the minor treasure. You know what? We'll just give us. So we're gonna get 5 things here. 5 d20s. Not this last. Oh, you love to see it. That 20 right there, that natural 20 means is that he definitely finds some sort of magic item. But let's find out what he's gonna find. So most of the stuff that he's gonna find 2 pocket contents, 1 trade good, 1 currency. Go ahead and put this in here as he's searching around. So Cristoff went to the bunkhouse. Find pocket, trade, currency, magic item. He makes the pack and becomes more like that's a very real possibility of something that he could do. Get us out of that. Let's just roll up what he finds real quick. All right, so we need 2d6. One and 1. Sure, why not? Hey, let me roll this die. Alright, so he finds some fine pants. Finds. Alright, so a fine pair of pants that are worth about 10 gold. So, very expensive pants. About 10G. Those are very, very nice. Pants. Clean up. 3 and 2. Alright. Yeah. What would that be? He finds a little bit of hardtack, I suppose. 7 coppers. Not much. Not the most nutritious thing in the world. It's trade good. 1. Probably should have saved this. Ooh, excellent. Okay. He found some arms or armament, but only it's so low it has to be like ammunition. Yeah. Or anything super useful. Yeah, not a lot you can buy for like coppers when you. Sure, I don't know why you'd need this, but there's a club, I guess. You can do a club or a staff. I guess we'll do a club. He finds a club, so it's just a mundane weapon. Does seem like the sort of thing a normal trader would have, though. As in the weapon club. He's gonna find a little bit of money, and I realize that this is probably gonna take. Happens sometimes. I'll probably do the rest of the trip. Kind of offline as for what Gertrude finds. It just anything useful. 11, 16. Ooh, that's not bad. Then it was back. And he finds a pouch of 5 gold. Well, could have gone better. But he does find a magic item. Alright. This is where things are going to get really, really important. It's really about how well we roll right now. So I really want this roll to be high. That's pretty high. That means that this is an uncommon item. And you know what? I'm gonna getting to do the change I need to make to this table. As I knock stuff over. All right. So okay. I gotta do one more d20 roll. If I roll high, it depends what kind of magic item it is. So if we're gonna roll 1 through 8, it's gonna be a single-use magic item, so some sort of consumable. If it is a 9 through 14, it's gonna be something that has multiple uses for it. If it's something that's 15 through 18, it's gonna have charges. Usually, it's like a lot of wands or things like that. If I get a 19 or higher, it's going to be a permanent item. I rolled a 7. We get 1 uncommon use consumable item. That note. So, that best means for us is that we should probably look at some items. Get out of here. Stop. Friend. I don't know you, sir. Need. Under. Go to home. How about that? What I need is junk items. That's under. Filter. All right, so we need something that is uncommon and is going to be some sort of consumable item. Could be a lot of these things, depending on what they are. Okay. Let's see if we can find something that's going to make. If I type. Generic variants, so we don't really want any of that. Potions. There's a lot of potions. See if we can find something that might be helpful. Or greater healing, which would have been helpful before he went down. And it's polychromy. Pugilism, radiant resistance. Lots of resistance. Rings. Rods. That's what we're looking for. A spell scroll of 3rd level should actually give us resurrection magic. That is when we tap into resurrection. Let's go into spells. Let's get some 2nd and 3rd level spells. And we primarily want things that the cleric can do for obvious reasons, but druid would also work. Actually, I think for this aspect, because of who would be casting it, we do need a cleric spell. We can always just animate him. Reed's just as good as he used to be when he was alive, mostly. Fine. Not that or a vitality. Nope, that's not going to help us. Speaking of hope, our knowledge, calm emotions, clairvoyance, create. Helpful homunculi. We've done enough with the homunculi. Spell magic, freshness, feign death, which is not a secret. So gentle repose is something we can do, which would be super useful for us. That's one that would be useful for us. Such as Raised Dead, which is a level 5 spell. We are far away from that. So I think that there's one that we can do. Move Curse, Revivify, right? That's the one I'm looking for. Died in the last minute. Last minute has gone by. This has been over a month. He'll be stronger as a zombie. He absolutely could come back stronger as that. Speak with dead. So really, the only thing that we can do that's going to be useful for us right now would be gentle repose. Touch corpse or other remains. For the duration, the target is protected from decay and can't become undead. Important. Spell also effectively extends the time limit on raising the target from dead, since days spent under the influence of the spell don't count against the time of spells such as Raise Dead, which I believe is the next highest thing that we have to do. And find it means we would have to find a 5th level. So, here's what we're going to do, is I'm going to give us a roll. Now, we said that the DC for this scene is 16. And there's nothing to really add to this. This is fully a luck roll. If you roll 16 or better, that is what this spell scroll is. Or that's what this magic item is. If it's not that. And I'll figure out what it is. So, we have, what is that? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We have a 25% chance that is what this is. That would be super useful for us. If not, perhaps other things happen. It is a scroll. Mental repose. All right, I'm writing it down. Which seems perfectly like what somebody like a merchant or trader or something like that who is like, well, if somebody in our party who's like important that I care about or myself gets killed way the heck away from civilization and, you know, I maybe have enough money, wealth, personally to be able to be brought back to life. It's more about getting my body there. So we do have a scroll of gentle repose. So he finds that and he runs back to Gertrude. Now Gertrude has also been looking for some stuff. If there's a lockup, she will find it. She's a smart cookie. She knows what she's looking for. We're going to do the same thing for her. She gets a D4 plus 1. So she's going to find 3 items or areas that she finds that might be something super useful. Obviously, there's more stuff here. This is stuff that she finds that could potentially be useful, or is the things that she finds in her search for looking for useful things. So, we're going to roll 10. 97 and 13 to see if we get something that's useful off of here. Leads us to something. Destroy. Not great. Destroy conflict. Something that puts things at peace, or maybe something that like consecrates the ground. Like I think that's one of the things you can do with like ceremony, right? Is that you can consecrate the ground. I think there is also just consecrate spell. So all right, so one of these is some sort of instructions on sanctifying the ground. I like that. So that's just what they get. So it's just instructions on sanctifying the ground. Be super useful if they decide that they want to keep this area. Gosh dang it. 2, 3. There. And she's going to get 3 items. So we're going to roll for her 3 items. Just to see if we get another magic item. That's really the only thing that's going to be helpful here. Oh, 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Big money, big money. We do actually roll another magic item. A 19 plus is a magic item. Okay, so that's good for us. The other 2 are going to be pocket contents. That's not important. Okay, so we're going to get pocket contents again. That's perfect for us. I'm going to get pocket contents. And the rest of this stuff I'm going to figure out offline. We're already running pretty long in the tooth for this stream. It'll give me time to think about what maybe comes next. And we get a magic item. Let's roll for that magic item. Since right, high is good for us. That's not good. Okay, so it's a common item. But I believe common item with charges. There's not a lot of those. There's a bunch of like gaffy kind of wands. So that's not super useful. We're not even in the right section. This. Doesn't have the item. I dislike. This is in the players. Items. Filter. What's common? Items. Something like the shotguns. Items do not age or decay while inside a chest of preserve. Chuck the body in there. We didn't get a permanent item. If we did, I'd go with the chest of preserving and be like, yep, you get a thing you can toss in there. Thing. Dark Shard Amulet. I think it's just... Right? Yeah, Warlocks. Feather Token's always a good one. But, oh, wait, no, we did get a comp. No, it's something with charges. Charges. Not a ton of those. In the common area. The Horn of Silent Alarm is another one, so we could have another Horn of Silent Alarm. Hasn't worked out super well for us yet. I had a Vermin also have one. So the Hat of Vermin's a good one that we could get. They are indifferent to you though, so it's not super useful. Interesting. Lanterns. Nope, that's not gonna work. Changed appearance. Change your face's appearance. You can't make yourself look like a different person, but you can smooth or deepen your wrinkles. What is the point of this? Interesting. Mystery. You find another Mythalar bracelet, which is actually quite good. Alright, what's this? One charge. Magic items off the coin on heads. Okay. Mm-hmm. Alright, well, I haven't seen a lot of super great stuff, and I knew that was going to be the case. Secret of Plenty. Yeah. Point of device, blah, 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 blah. Oh, And the flower is harmless and non-magical, and it grows or withers as a normal flower would. Defecate. Sure, why not? A willow staff of flowers. I'll take it. Right? It's something that has a charge, and it's basic. always going to be the problem when you have the common rarity, is that there's just a real small selection of things that are useful, and everything else is just kind of very, very specific, flavory kind of stuff. You make it permanent if it was common. It is common, but we need it to be charged, unfortunately. But lots of those are technically permanent items. So we'll give them the Willow Staff of Flowers. So the two of them come back together, meeting inside the storehouse, and Cristoff pulls out. I found this. It might be useful. I also found this journal that has some strange information in it. I don't know if this is helpful. And he kind of hands it over to Gertrude. Gertrude will make a check. She will, of course, give herself guidance. Why wouldn't she? Doesn't matter, though. She takes a look at it, and she's like, her mind's a little bit scrambled as she's trying to think about this stuff and think about a lot of things at one time. Something here about people die to theme that too involved for what I need now. Takes the journal and sets the journal aside. She's gonna undo the scroll. Much more useful. Scroll of gentle. I should be able to. And that will give us more time to find a potential. The Lord's current issues with mortality. She will take the time and cast Gentle Repose. So, you back up and Gertrude interpret journal, cast Gentle Repose on body. Look specifically at again. Repose. Spell Gentle Repose. You touch a corpse or other remains during the duration, the target is protected from decay and can't become undead. Effectively extends the time limit on raising the target from dead, since days spent under the influence of the spell don't count against the time limit of such spells, such as Raise Dead. So I think they ripped through this stuff very, very much. So I don't think like an hour has passed by. I think they did this very quickly. So, because depending on what resurrection spell, it will depend. The longer time goes by, the more powerful magic it takes to bring them back. And that may or may not be in the cards. We don't know yet. But for a moment, we drift into something kind of darken all the way down to black. We feel Reed's soul moving through the space of the astral, moving towards its final resting place. As it slowly begins that sort of mental, metaphysical move. So it feels like motion, like traveling, but doesn't tire you. There is no discomfort doing it, no energy expenditure. It is like floating along a lazy river of time and space, drifting. The unknown, which comes next. He settles into waking back up and kind of understanding they are. drift through an empty leisurely, just kind of floating. It's in a situation where there's no landmarks that tell you you're moving, but Reed can definitely feel that he is moving. It's a very strange sensation knowing that you are moving, but not having any reference point or any of your senses that tells you that you are, kind of tells you still. And in that, he feels like as he's moving that then jerk a bit, start to slow, as though the brakes have been pressed. Feels motion coming to halt, left to wander in this in between everything, this place of nothingness in the middle. And feels stuck. Now being put into this cosmic limbo of waiting. This area between what was life and what come next. And any sense of time has totally evaporated. Seconds could be minutes, hours could be centuries. Impossible to know, in the same way that it's impossible to know where you are, impossible to know when you are. And every moment seems like it stretches on further and further, further. Infinity. And from the darkness, a shape begins to coalesce, begins to come nearer. And as it moves closer, it begins to get a singular reference point in the sea of nothing. What seems like something that could be tiny, something like a marble that he could pluck out of the air, realizes that this thing is far, distant, away, and begins to grow, understanding that now it's moving closer. But again, unable with depth perception to understand the size of this thing. It grows larger to his size, larger again, larger than any creature he's ever seen, larger than a giant, size of a mountain. And as this swings into, there is a rumble of a voice as this entity speak. And that's where we'll stop this time. And next time we'll pick up with what that entity is, what's gonna happen to Reed, and if we're gonna have a new character in our next story. And we'll be moving forward with that. But for now, hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this game. Hey, we danced with death multiple times before it finally got us. So it's gotten us, and it's gotten primarily our PC and not one of our sidekicks. So we're gonna have to figure out what happens with them next time. I'll stew upon it. I will percolate as to what this entity might be. I'm gonna come up with some options, is what I'm gonna do. And then when we start next time, I'll probably roll for which one of those things is the thing that shows up, based off of how likely I think it is that which entity might show up, who might be looking or interested in what happens to Reed as a person, or as a soul, or as a pawn. But hey, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. If you like this, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to see more of this stuff, hey, we got a whole list. You can watch all the 11 episodes up to Reed's death and find out what's going on and how we got to this point and what might be waiting in the wings in the future. We have had a touch of the metaphysical before, reached out and had some interactions with things beyond this plane. So perhaps it is one of those creatures. Be a god, it could be a demon, it could be many sundry things. Figure that out next time. So if you want to see other stuff, we have other like DnD and TTRPG content, so feel free to check that out. We got lots of stuff, lots of playlists. If you want to watch the previous solo game we did, there's playlists for that over on the YouTube. So I think that's about it. There's other stuff down in the description. You know what to do. You've been on the website before. So thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and I'll see you guys real soon. We'll be back probably Tuesday and Thursday, probably, talking about some other stuff. And then when we get back to next Saturday, maybe we'll be figuring out what happens with Reed and Cristoff and Gertrude. But I'll see you guys later. All right. Bye-bye.